Chapter 4963. It was unrealistic for Chen to take a trip to the void. He didn't have the time or the energy. If Brady came back and couldn't see him, his world would probably be in trouble. Balek went back again. He needed to watch the Saint Spirit realm to prevent accidents. Chen continued to be beaten here. During this time, he tried to resist Balek's attacks, but he didn't succeed even once. There was a clear gap between them. After Balek went back, he came to the second realm again. He needed to watch here. Accidents were most likely to happen here. Brady came to the entrance of the third realm, which was discovered by Theseus. "Are you sure?" Brady looked at Theseus and said, "Is the passage here?" Theseus nodded and said, "I have a talent that allows me to sense abnormal fluctuations in space." No wonder. Brady turned and punched out. Streams of power flowed on the surface of his fist, emitting a powerful aura. Theseus looked at Brady's fist and the power on it. The power made him feel threatened. Boom! The space shattered, and the third realm was forcefully opened. "Let's go in and take a look." Brady took the lead and walked in. Theseus and the others followed. The vitality of the second realm was flowing away rapidly. Planets and worlds exploded one after another because of the chaos of the rules. The creatures in this realm fell into fear. They could fly out of this world and take refuge in the void. Those who couldn't fly were heading toward destruction as the world shattered. The injured overseer watched silently and did not stop them. Sorrowful cries kept coming out. The second realm fell into a desperate atmosphere. Balek sighed. If Chen hadn't handled it well, the first realm might have been finished. Infinite vitality poured into those heads. After absorbing the vitality, the head's consciousness began to recover. At the same time, their bodies began to condense. Chen had killed too many people. Moreover, this world hadn't fully recovered. There wasn't even a demon. These existences stronger than demons were fatal when they devoured vitality. Swish. Some people with lower realms condensed their physical bodies in advance. He had a smile on his face and flew into the distance. He came to a world outside and flew in. The world, which was already in chaos, immediately became a chaotic mess. Balek stood in the void and watched this scene quietly. His heart was filled with endless emotions. There was also a lot of helplessness. Fearing that Brady would notice him, he retreated to the entrance again. The heads recovered one after another, turning into real bodies. Then, they went to different parts of the world in search of life and other forms of entertainment. After all, the grade of this world was limited. It was impossible to provide enough resources for these people to revive. When a heaven's chosen state cultivator awoke, his body was still in an illusory state. Sensing this world, he said directly, "How much vitality can we obtain here? Let's go to the first realm." The expressions of the other beings who were recovering changed. Their bodies, which were already unstable, showed signs of collapsing. The first realm had Chen, the god of slaughter, guarding it. Wouldn't it be suicide to go there now? Seeing the fear in everyone's eyes, the heaven's chosen said, "You all saw what happened not long ago. In front of the Lord, Chen was like a dog. But we are my Lord's subordinates. Our status is higher than his. If we turn back this time, would he dare to say anything? After all, they had already died once. They didn't want to die a second time. What are you afraid of? If he dares to kill us, my Lord will definitely kill him when he returns." The heaven's chosen state continued, "He's afraid of death. Otherwise, he wouldn't have submitted to my Lord. As my Lord's dogs, why can't we go to his world to take some things?" Blake heard the conversation between the two of them and left without a second thought. He had to tell Chen about this. As a supervisor, he couldn't interfere with this kind of grudge, so he had to tell Chen the truth. Actually, he was a bit conflicted. In his heart, he still hoped that Chen could seize the time to break through. As for the Saint Spirit realm, even if he lost some, it was an acceptable price. But he was also very worried. What if these people went straight to the Tianwu world and he didn't inform Chen? That would be a huge problem. Those people could do anything. In the Tianwu world, they were all people that Chen cared about. So, He told Zi Chen the truth and gave the choice to Zi Chen. Zi Chen didn't say anything and turned back. He first returned to the Tianwu world and signaled Su Mengyaro and the others to be on guard. Then he went to the entrance. As soon as he arrived, some existences walked out from the second realm. Seeing Zi Chen standing there, their expressions changed and they subconsciously retreated. I was wondering who it was. Isn't this my lord's new dog? Why did he run over himself? Is he here to welcome us? A faint voice sounded from behind. A heaven's chosen state whose body was still illusory and whose aura was unstable walked out from the crowd. Zi Chen obviously recognized him. He was the one who sent the 5 golden bells back. When the others heard the words of the heaven's chosen state, they stopped retreating and looked at Zi Chen with cold eyes. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that enemies had met. Go back now and I'll let you live, Zi Chen said coldly. Once we go back, the second realm will be destroyed by us and all living things will be slaughtered. The heaven's chosen state said, do you have the nerve to watch them die? There are so many innocent living things. Do you have the heart to watch them die? He pointed behind Zi Chen. Look at the world you protect. It's big enough, and there are many planets and worlds. There are many living beings. No matter how cruel we are, no matter how much we kill, we can't destroy this place completely. So, why don't you do us a favor and let us destroy and kill here to save the second realm? Zi Chen said coldly, I'll say it again. If you retreat now, you can live. Otherwise, you'll all die. Trying to scare us? The heaven's chosen state sneered, you think we're scared? We're my lord's subordinates. You're just his new dog. What right do you have to order us around? The others looked at Zi Chen's cold expression and weren't afraid anymore. Because if they had the guts, Zi Chen wouldn't say a word and would just kill them. Now, Zi Chen only talked nonsense and didn't attack. This proved that he didn't have the guts. It seemed that he was indeed afraid of my lord. Everyone, you see, he doesn't have the guts to attack us. The heaven's chosen state smiled, now, everyone can destroy as much as they want here. Destroy whatever you want. He looked at Zi Chen, I heard that you have a world that was previously sealed. Now that it has been opened, my first stop will be that place. Everyone you care about, destroy the bodies of the men and leave their heads behind. Let them feel the pain we suffered before. As for the women, we have many ways to torture them. The other waved coldly, everyone, let's go. Wang. Chapter 4964. The 5 golden bells floated in the air, shining brightly. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed and they all stopped. Was he going to attack? The heaven's chosen smiled coldly and said disdainfully, what? Are you trying to scare us? Retreat and you can live. Zi Chen was still restraining himself, even though he didn't want to. You're just a dog that the Lord just found, and you want to be a human in front of us? Try touching us if you have the guts, the Lord will soon come back and destroy you. The heavens chosen said disdainfully, not only will you die, but the world you protect will also be destroyed. Don't you represent their will? You can die with them. But if you scram now, we're just going to mess around in this world. Although we'll lose some people and a part of the world, it's better than all of us dying, right? Zi Chen's eyes were cold. Don't look at me like that, I'm actually thinking for you. After all, you also want to live, right? The heavens chosen said with a smile, actually, there's another way. That is, you can invite us to your world and treat us well. Maybe we'll only mess around in your world and won't go anywhere else. By the way, do you have a woman you like? I have a hobby, I'm only interested in other people's women. If you're willing to contribute and let me enjoy, maybe we can discuss other things. The heavens chosen laughed, how about it, isn't this a good suggestion? Zi Chen took a few steps back. The heavens chosen said, yes, that's right, that's what a dog should. Before he could finish, the golden bell above his head vibrated and rang. A ripple spread out, and the illusory bodies of several existences disappeared, leaving only a head floating. You dare to attack. The heavens chosen without a body screamed, Zi Chen, do you want to die? You dare attack us, how dare you? Immediately, several people walked up. They were all smart people and could naturally see that Zi Chen was worried. Otherwise, with Zi Chen's personality, he would have slaughtered everyone, not so benevolent. Therefore, the more Zi Chen behaved like this, the more unafraid they were. Get out of the way, or we'll go back and look for the Lord. That's right. Once the Lord arrives, what awaits you will definitely be death. Seeing how angry you are, there should be someone you care about, right? Don't worry, we'll be more magnanimous and just play without killing. Today, we'll make it clear. Either you die, or let us pass. If you continue to stand in our way, you will only infuriate us. The crowd was obviously not afraid. Even if some of them were only left with their heads, they could still glare at Zi Chen angrily. For a moment, spittle flew everywhere. Zi Chen sighed and said, "It seems that we can only choose the third option." "There is no third option. We will only give you two options," said the Heavens Chosen coldly. "The third path is my own choice." Zi Chen looked at them. Since there was no way out, he might as well fight. Dang! The bell tolled again, and the golden ripples surged. This time, the remaining people all disappeared, leaving only their heads floating in the air. The Heavens Chosen Realm cultivator was enraged, but before he could finish, a golden light flew over and pierced his head with a puff. Just like before, it destroyed his vitality, leaving behind a wisp of remnant soul. Seeing this, the others no longer had the arrogance on their faces. Obviously, their aggressiveness did not make Zi Chen submit. Instead, it forced him to walk on another crazy path. Pu. 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 The golden light swam, piercing through one head after another. "Lord, please spare us." The other heads hurriedly begged for mercy. They did not want to experience the pain they had experienced before again. Zi Chen was expressionless. Since he had chosen to kill, he would not hold back. Pu. 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 The remaining heads were pierced one after another. After all the invaders had their heads pierced, Zi Chen walked to the entrance. On the other side of the entrance, the others had already heard the news. After learning that Zi Chen had started a massacre, they dispersed in an uproar. No matter how much courage they had, they would not dare to go over and behave atrociously. Zi Chen did not kill his way over. He just stood at the entrance of the first realm. After taking a look at the ruined second realm, he turned back and looked at the heads. He said coldly, "After this crisis, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Even if you can't avoid it, I will still make you suffer the pain of having your souls refined. If I die, I will destroy you first before I die." From those heads, there were begging waves. These people regretted it. They had already revived, but they still had to find trouble with Zi Chen. Now, they were back to the past. A fate worse than death. Zi Chen sat cross-legged at the entrance and began to cultivate. During this time, he lowered his head and glanced at his heart. "Whether or not I can escape this calamity depends on you." Balek returned to the Tianwu world and secretly told Su Mengyaro and the others that there might be danger in the future. He told them to go to the Holy Talisman realm to hide first. The Tianwu world had always kept the entrance to the Holy Talisman realm. Everyone knew the severity of the matter. After the trial and the invasion of Heaven's Chosen, they had become ordinary existences. Even though they were worried about Zi Chen, they could do nothing and could only leave. Zi Chen had his own selfish motives. He only informed a portion of the people and did not ask everyone in the world to retreat. He would not retreat a single step and live or die with this world. Brady went to the third realm and no one knew when he would return. A Heaven's Choice realm cultivator volunteered to leave this place and enter the third realm to look for Brady. Perhaps Brady would reward him greatly if he reported such a big matter to his superiors. When he arrived here, his Heaven's Chosen power erupted. He could clearly sense this world. At the entrance of the fourth realm, he found Brady and immediately went forward to call him Lord. "Who are you?" Brady looked at him. "Lord, I am McCarthy, who has just revived. As soon as you left, Zi Chen came out and started a massacre." McCarthy stepped forward and said, "Zi Chen?" Brady furrowed his brows. "He's got guts." McCarthy nodded and said, "We have already warned him that we are Lord's subordinates, but he still didn't listen. He has already killed many of us." Seuss sneered. "This Zi Chen is indeed audacious. Brady looked at McCarthy and said, "But you treated me like an idiot. You deserve to die even more." With that, he punched out. McCarthy's body instantly exploded, and even his soul was destroyed. Chapter 4965. If McCarthy treated Brady like a fool, he was simply courting death. If he had told the truth, he might have been able to survive. Even if Zi Chen was given a few more guts, he believed that Zi Chen would not dare to go to the second realm to cause trouble. On the way back, Brady had even guessed what had happened. However, Zi Chen had still touched his people. If he did not teach him a lesson, then what dignity would he have left as the future number one person in the myriad of worlds? When he returned to the second realm, it had already been destroyed beyond recognition. However, Brady did not say anything. In the future, he would have the myriad of worlds. He did not care about the destruction of a mere world. Those who had not recovered came forward one by one, bowed to Brady, and then told him what had happened. As Brady had guessed, they had gone to the first realm and were killed by Zi Chen. "Let's go to the first realm," Brady said. "Next, you will recover in the first realm." Cheers immediately erupted from the surroundings. It was not only because there was more vitality and energy in the first realm, but also because they could take revenge there. They believed that this time, their destructive power would be dozens or even hundreds of times greater than last time. Brady walked forward, and the others followed behind. No one dared to lead the way, because they might encounter Zi Chen first. Brady saw Zi Chen at the entrance. Zi Chen, who was seizing the time to cultivate, opened his eyes and looked at Brady. Not long after, the two met again. "You have guts." Brady's expression was gloomy. "You even dared to kill my people." The others followed and stood behind Brady. Zi Chen cupped his fists and said, "I want to protect this world. They went too far. I had no choice." When the people behind saw Zi Chen's attitude, they were all very disdainful. When facing them, Zi Chen was as cold as a killing god. However, when facing Brady, he was instantly terrified. "So, I should forgive you?" A hint of mockery flashed across Brady's mouth. Then, "Thank you, sir." Zi Chen cupped his fists again. Brady said, "You're welcome. Seeing that you performed very well, I'll let it go this time. As for them, they will recover here in the future." Zi Chen's expression changed as he said, "Yes, but you are not allowed to destroy or kill. If we don't destroy and kill, how can we recover quickly?" A person at the back said in dissatisfaction. Clearly, he was not afraid because of the presence of his superior. Brady looked at Zi Chen, his eyes gradually turning cold. "You still want to stop me? I wouldn't dare, but this is my hometown. They can come in and recover, but they can't kill innocent people," Zi Chen said. "This is my bottom line." Brady smiled disdainfully. "Your bottom line? Would it work for me?" Since they were already here, they naturally did as they pleased. "I, Brady's men, will not restrain themselves no matter where they go, now and in the future. Listen up. Once you're here, you can kill as you wish. You can do whatever you want." Zi Chen looked at Brady. "Sir, are you serious?" Brady said, "Are you worthy of my jokes?" Zi Chen nodded and retreated. Brady said sarcastically, "At least you know what's good for you." Otherwise, before he could finish speaking, two rays of light appeared beside Zi Chen and charged toward the people behind Brady. This time, Zi Chen did not choose to leave their souls behind. Instead, he destroyed them all. Only by slaughtering these people would there be a trace of peace in this world. Actually, Zi Chen was already regretting it. If he had known this would happen, he would have killed them all and not left their heads behind. Then, there wouldn't be so much trouble. Pu. 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 The massacre spirits and Tao swords pierced through the heads of existences one after another, destroying their souls one after another. They sensed Zi Chen's resolute attitude, so they became even more lethal. "You're courting death." Brady was enraged. He did not expect Zi Chen to be so bold as to kill people in front of him. In his opinion, Zi Chen's retreat meant that he had submitted. Swoosh. He instantly appeared in front of Zi Chen and punched at Zi Chen. The strange power of the void had been mobilized. Zi Chen, who was retreating, crossed his arms in front of him. Boundless golden light circulated as the immortal golden body was activated. There was no counterattack, only defense. Just as he was in full defense, the 5 great golden bells appeared in the sky again. However, it was not the sky where he was, but the sky where the existences who had just been revived were. Clang! The bells rang, full of killing power. Nearly 100 people died on the spot. Chen was multitasking and destroyed everyone's souls. Chen was fighting this battle for the last battle of his life. Therefore, he did not care about consumption and only wanted to kill the enemy. Boom! Brady's fist light exploded and Chen was sent flying. Blood streaked across the sky. Brady, who had just punched, was stunned because he did not kill his opponent. Not to mention exploding his body, even his bones were not broken. Interesting. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he approached again in a flash. His speed was even faster than teleportation. After approaching Chen, a terrifying fist light was magnified in his field of vision. Boom! When the second punch landed, Chen retracted his arms and hit his own chest, instantly shattering his own bones. Brady's attack was even stronger than Blacklake's. Your physical body is not bad. Brady's eyes had a touch of surprise. At his level, 2 punches had not killed an initial stage Heaven's Choice. This was very thought-provoking. Therefore, after approaching, he punched for the 3rd time. Crack! Chen's bones were all broken, and he coughed up blood repeatedly. In his chest, his heart was beating strongly, constantly transmitting power to protect his vitality. No, although your body is very strong, your vitality is still at a low level. It shouldn't be so tenacious. Brady said, there seems to be a strange fluctuation in your heart. Let me see what it is. He quickly moved forward. His palm was like a knife, stabbing toward Chen's chest, wanting to dig out Chen's heart. Whoosh! Whoosh! The path sword and the slaughter spirit flew back and attacked Brady. Brady's expression was disdainful. With a casual wave of his hand, he sent the 2 flying. Buzz! 5 golden bells appeared above his head, forming a divine rune pattern. A terrifying pressure fell, wanting to suppress Brady. Brady looked at the sky and said in surprise, "No wonder you dare to fight me. You have so many treasures on you. Unfortunately, your strength level is too low. Even if you have a supreme treasure, it can't protect you." Brady punched out. When his fist landed in the sky, it shattered the divine rune pattern with a boom. Just as Brady said, his strength level was too low. Even his attack was weak. After destroying the divine rune pattern, Brady came in front of Chen. His palm was like a knife, piercing through Chen's skin, grabbing toward his heart. Chapter 4966. Chen smashed down with the bone club in his hand. His expression was extremely crazed. This was his all-out attack. Whether or not he could kill his opponent would depend on this attack. This was also his greatest trump card. Wang. Brady seemed to have sensed danger. His right hand paused in its action of digging out his heart. He blocked with his left hand, and the light of power circulated in his palm. Shua. The bone stick fell silently. The moment it came into contact with Brady's arm, it directly disintegrated his arm. Then, the bone stick fell on Brady's head. Bang! A huge tremor. Brady was sent flying, and his screams were interspersed with time. Several hundred feet away, Brady had lost an arm and half of his head. His face looked exceptionally ferocious. At this moment, he was looking at the bone club in Chen's hand in horror. Chen lowered his head and glanced at his chest. The wound that Brady had just cut open had completely healed. His heart was beating vigorously, constantly injecting vitality into his body. During this period, it was accompanied by a powerful energy to make up for his consumption. Those who were lucky enough to survive in the distance were all dumbfounded. This Chen was too fierce. He had beaten the invincible Lord into such a state. With such strength, why was he so afraid of Lord Li? Subconsciously, they retreated a little because they were worried that Chen would kill again. What kind of weapon is that? Brady's cheek began to heal. His eyes were fixed on Chen's weapon. To be able to injure him to such an extent, It was enough to prove that the weapon was extraordinary. For example, the two weapons from before couldn't hurt him at all. The golden bell floated above Zichen's head. The slaughter spirit and Tao sword floated on the left and right. Zichen held the bone club tightly and looked at Brady. Can we just let it go? He didn't have the confidence to kill Brady. You think we can just let it go just because you said so? Brady's face had completely recovered. He coldly stared at Zichen. At present, Zichen was only at the initial stage of the Heaven's chosen realm, yet he had been beaten to such a state. Once Zichen was allowed to continue growing, wouldn't he be even more powerful? Most importantly, he could see that Zichen's weapons were all extraordinary. Leaving them in his hands would be a complete waste. He would not be able to unleash their full power. Therefore, he must snatch it. Boom. The aura around Brady became increasingly berserk, like the eruption of a vast ocean. The pressure from the void instantly filled the surroundings. The people in the distance retreated once again. There was fear in their eyes. That pressure made them feel suffocated. This was a power that exceeded the limits of this world. Zichen looked at Brady. At this moment, Brady gave him the feeling of Black Lake. In truth, Brady's strength was still at the level of a high-level Heaven's chosen. It was just that within his strength, there was an additional strand of the power of the void. This was the basis of his strength. Although Zichen was only at the initial stage of the Heaven's chosen realm, his strength was no weaker than a high-level Heaven's chosen realm cultivator. The reason he couldn't defeat Brady now was because he didn't have the power of the void. That represented a higher level of law. It was a law that reigned above all other worlds, including the trial realms. In other words, the current Brady was no longer a cultivator, but a supervisor. Therefore, only he could kill others, and others couldn't kill him. Die. Brady brought with him a terrifying strength. It was like a vast ocean closing in, forming a powerful impact. Dang! In the sky, the 5 golden bells rang in unison, forming a divine rune diagram that suppressed Brady. Wang! The power of the void vibrated on Brady's surface, dissolving the divine rune diagram. Xiu! Xiu! The Tao sword and the slaughter spirit moved, but just as they approached Brady, they were blocked by the defense around him. That strand of void power seemed to be indestructible, able to block all attacks. Swish! Zichen approached, raising the bone staff in his hand and smashing it at Brady. Brady punched out, colliding with the bone staff. There was a loud boom. The power on Brady's fist collapsed, forming a terrifying shockwave. Zichen rapidly retreated, and the bone staff in his hand almost slipped out of his hand. Zichen broke out in a cold sweat. The bone staff couldn't recognize an owner, and anyone could fight with it. Therefore, he definitely couldn't let it slip out of his hand. This was the only thing he could rely on now. No, that's a weapon from the void. It has destructive power, Brady suddenly exclaimed, his eyes filled with shock. Previously, his void power had been forcefully shattered, but because Zichen was too weak to continue, he couldn't do anything to him. Brady was somewhat glad. Through this battle, he understood Zichen's combat strength. If he allowed Zichen to increase his level and reach the same level as him, he would be a threat to him if he used the bone staff again. Shocked, he stared at the bone staff, and a look of intense greed appeared in his eyes. He could naturally see that Zichen's weapon hadn't recognized an owner. Once he obtained it, he would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Only I, who walked out of the void, am worthy of possessing such a weapon. He once again charged at Zichen. This time, his goal was very clear: to snatch the bone staff. Zichen raised the bone staff and struck again. This was the only thing he could rely on. Boom! There was an explosion of energy, and Brady was forced back. However, Zichen's strength was still lacking, so he couldn't injure him further. Every time you use it, you will consume a lot of energy. I want to see how many times you, who are only at the initial stage of the Heaven's chosen realm, can use it. Brady laughed heartily and continued to rush over. He was very confident that he would be able to obtain the bone rod. Zichen raised the bone staff and struck again, causing a loud boom to resound through the void. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, 5 strikes. Zi Chen's strength was so strong that it exceeded Brady's expectations. However, he was only a little surprised. Zi Chen obviously couldn't kill him. When his strength was exhausted, it would be time for him to die. At this moment, Zi Chen's heart was also becoming unstable. The supply of energy couldn't keep up with the rate of consumption. In this way, there would be a time when his energy would be exhausted. You have a lot of secrets. After I kill you, I will study your body properly. Brady looked at Zi Chen, his eyes shining as if he was looking at a treasure. Zi Chen struck a dozen more times, and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of Brady's mouth. He was slightly injured, but Zi Chen's face was pale. The consumption of energy was increasing. If this continued, he would fall. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind. "Young master, try this." It was Miao Miao. She was holding a black tower with 7 floors in her hand. Zi Chen recognized it at a glance. It was a tower from the other world that Ji Shan used to seal them. However, what was the use of Miao Miao bringing it over? "Young master, try it. It might be useful." Miao Miao tossed the 7-story tower over. Seeing this, Zi Chen could only reach out and catch it. In this situation, he could only try everything he could. The last bit of energy in his body crazily poured into the black tower. Wang! A terrifying aura erupted from the black tower. The black tower was trembling, showing signs of leaving his hand. Shua! Zi Chen's soul thought moved, and the 7-story tower flew over. It expanded in the void, and streams of black air swirled around the tower. What is this? Brady raised his head and looked at the black tower. His expression changed. Just as he felt that something was wrong, a strange power suddenly came from the black tower and enveloped him. Shua! Brady entered the black tower. Trapped. Chapter 4967. The black tower was very mysterious. At first, it was just something that Zi Chen wanted to use as a last resort. He didn't expect that it would immediately trap Brady. A hint of terror appeared in the eyes of those people in the distance, and they planned to escape. Once their lord was trapped, what awaited them would definitely be death. There was no doubt about this at all. Without their lord's suppression, Zi Chen was a cold-blooded demon. Dong! Suddenly, there was a loud rumble, and a ray of light flew out from the black tower. It was Brady. After he broke free from the black tower, he didn't find trouble with Zi Chen. Instead, he turned into a ray of light and entered the second realm. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the second realm. This caused Zi Chen's expression to change. He actually ran away. He hesitated whether to continue chasing. Without the power to inject, the black tower flew back and landed in Zi Chen's palm. Looking at this black tower, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He originally thought that the thing that Ji Shan left behind was only at the level of a demon and was already useless for the trial realm. He didn't expect that this black tower could even suppress an existence like Brady. This time, there were 2 main reasons for Brady's escape. One was that Zi Chen had expended a lot of energy, and the second was that he wasn't familiar with the black tower. It was already very shocking that he could control it so quickly. How can this black tower be so powerful? Looking at Miao Miao, who was walking over, Zi Chen asked in confusion. Miao Miao shook her head, and said, "I only felt that this tower was extraordinary, so I brought it over for young master to try." Miao Miao's attempt was risking her life. After everyone entered the Holy Talisman realm, she turned back and gave Zi Chen a chance of survival. Run! Seeing this, the other existences immediately flew toward the second realm. Zi Chen asked Miao Miao to return to the world and wait while he followed. It was fine if he couldn't kill Brady, but he definitely couldn't let these people live. This time, Zi Chen learned his lesson and didn't plan to let any of them go. He directly obliterated them and didn't leave their heads behind. Under his all-out pursuit, it was extremely difficult for them to escape. For a time, poof, poof sounds continuously sounded from the void. Some were begging for mercy, while others were cursing the devil. Zi Chen was expressionless as he harvested one life after another, not giving them a chance to live. Even the opportunity to repent had been taken away. If they hadn't been so overbearing, things wouldn't have gotten to this point. Brady would still be the master of the myriad realms and would not run away in a sorry state. They would also be able to be reborn and enter the myriad realms to live a more exciting life. Unfortunately, they just had to provoke Zichen. With experience this time, Zichen did not leave behind a single head. After hunting down and killing almost everyone in the 3 realms, he returned once more. During this period of time, the overseers all remained hidden, not appearing at all. After returning to the Saint Spirit realm, Balek appeared. He shook his head and said, "Brady seemed to have disappeared into thin air. I followed him for a while and then lost him. After this incident, he probably won't come again, at least not in the near future." Zichen clenched his fists. His previous injuries had already recovered. After this battle, he felt that he had improved again. After all, this was a true life-and-death battle. In a dangerous situation, one's potential was easier to stimulate. He didn't plan to stay here and returned to the Tianwu world. The others already knew that the crisis had been resolved and had returned from the Holy Talisman realm. Black Tower Zichen stayed by his side. He still had to study it carefully. It would be a great help in the future. If it wasn't for its existence, Zichen and the Saint Spirit realm would be completely finished this time. Regardless of whether it was the Tianwu world or the living beings of the Saint Spirit realm, none of them knew that this world had once again brushed past destruction. In the main hall, Zichen recounted the battle, and everyone was shocked. Monk said, "It's a pity that your current realm can no longer feed back to the Tianwu world. Otherwise, we would have improved even faster." The Tianwu world was Zichen's world. In the past, every time Zichen broke through a realm, the world would receive a gift. When the energy of heaven and earth appeared from the void, the world's grade would increase, and everyone would benefit. Zichen said helplessly, "Right now, the Tianwu world is already at the same level as the Saint Spirit realm. There is no possibility of it increasing. Although my own realm is increasing, there is no higher grade energy in the void for the Tianwu world. Right now, the highest level that Zichen's Tianwu world could cultivate was a demon. This was the same as the Saint Spirit realm. As long as the Tianwu world was not separated from the Saint Spirit realm, no matter how many realms Zichen broke through, the Tianwu world, which had grown to its limit, would not receive any feedback. If they wanted the Tianwu world to grow again, they would need the Saint Spirit realm to increase a level in advance and become a place similar to the Trial realm. However, this was obviously impossible. The Trial realm was established temporarily and was not a complete world. It was only a place for all ascenders to pass through. Unless one day, Hugh really connected the myriad realms, and then stabilized the Trial realm through the myriad realms rules, turning it into a new immortal realm. At that time, the Saint Spirit realm would be able to increase its level. Similarly, as long as the Saint Spirit realm's level increased, the Tianwu world would also increase in level. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Damn it, what on earth is that thing? Brady hid on a ruined planet. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in blood. He looked very miserable. Escaping from the Black Tower, he had almost lost half his life. He did not dare to continue fighting Zichen head-on, so he could only escape first. This time, after returning from the void, although he was arrogant, he still understood the principle of survival first. "Wait until I recover, then I'll kill you. Your things are all mine." Brady hid here to heal his wounds. He coveted all the things on Zichen's body. It was because all of them were very powerful. However, Zichen did not have the power of the void, so he could not unleash their full power. Even so, he was still no match for Zichen. It was clear that those things were extraordinary. "I can sneak attack and kill you in one move, so you won't have the chance to use those things." As he healed, he had even thought of a way to take revenge next time. "Are you sure you still have a chance?" At this moment, a calm voice rang out. "Who?" Brady turned his head and looked into the distance. A figure of light appeared out of thin air. "It's me. How did you find me?" Brady looked at Hugh. "I can even find the coordinates of the myriad realms hidden in the void. How can a mere person not find me?" Hugh smiled faintly. "Watch your attitude when you speak." A hint of displeasure appeared in Brady's eyes. Don't think that I can't do anything to you now that I'm injured. Let me tell you, if I want to kill you monitors, I can do so at any time. Is that so? Hugh's figure suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Brady and reached out to grab his neck. You want to die? Brady flew into a rage and immediately mobilized the power of the void in his body. Do you think you can ruin my plans? I wanted to let you be proud for a while, but who knew that you couldn't even defeat a mere initial stage Heaven's Chosen? Then what use do I have for you? A hint of killing intent appeared in Hugh's eyes. A powerful aura suddenly surged around him, suppressing Brady's power. You also have the power of the void. Chapter 4968. You're really stupid. You want to trample everyone under your feet the moment you arrive. Why don't you use your brain and think about why I want to unify the 10,000 realms? Just to pave the way for an idiot like you? Or to pave the way for other idiots who might obtain the power of the void? Zeus sneered. Am I really that stupid? He had forcefully destroyed Brady's soul. If he could be reborn, Brady would definitely not have provoked Chen. Then he would not have fallen to his current state. As for Zeus, when he was at his peak, he would not have dared to kill him. Or rather, he would not have been able to kill him. Brady was dead, and Zeus obtained a power from the void. It was completely different from the power of the immortal spell realm that the Monitor obtained. This power was even more frenzied and filled with brutality. An unexpected surprise. A cold smile appeared on Zeus's face. He swallowed the power of the void in one gulp. 3 powers coiled around his body. 1 was the power of the immortal spell realm, and 2 were the power of the void. Soon, the 2 powers of the void were hidden, leaving only the power of the immortal spell realm. He turned to look at the entrance to the second realm. Chen's things are really good. It's a waste to leave them with him. However, it's best not to act rashly. I'll let him keep them for now. Zeus waved his hand lightly, and Brady's body turned into fine powder and disappeared. The next moment, his body also disappeared. For him, the most important thing now was to open up the 10,000 realms. Brady's matter quickly spread throughout the various realms. Everyone knew of his existence, and at the same time, they also knew of the power that surpassed the Heaven's Chosen realm. The power of the void. For a moment, many people were tempted. Brady used to be from the immortal Slaughter City. He was a character from many years ago. Because he was too bored in the trial realm, he entered the depths of the void. Everyone thought that he would disappear like those sages before him. They never thought that he would actually come back alive and possess invincible strength. If Chen had not used a supreme treasure, no one in these realms would be able to suppress him. Many people who knew Brady had come to the second realm to search for him. They wanted to ask where the power of the void came from, and all of them wanted to enter the void. Chen went back and continued to cultivate. The last battle was purely due to luck. He tried to refine the Black Tower, but did not succeed. It was like a bone stick that couldn't be refined. As for the 7th floor, Chen had yet to reach it. He didn't know if it was because it hadn't recognized him as its owner, but he couldn't enter the 7th floor. He didn't know what was there. Next, he kept the Black Tower by his side, and studied it as he cultivated. Several months passed quickly, but there was still no news of Brady. Tyrant and the others broke through one after another, becoming demon-like existences. Originally, as long as they reached this level, they could enter the void to explore. However, there were many unexpected events in the world now, so everyone obediently stayed in the Tianwu world and waited for everything to settle down. Many people were looking for Brady, but there was no news. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. Calculating the time, he should be able to recover from his previous injuries in a few months. Why didn't he come back for revenge? Chen had been waiting for Brady, waiting for the second battle between the two sides. Unfortunately, he still hadn't seen the other party. White Lake and Black Lake quietly left the Saint Spirit realm and went to the second realm to search. After searching for a few months, they still found nothing. Zeus had already opened the 15th world, and his speed was extremely fast. Moreover, as the various worlds were opened, and as the passageways stabilized, Chen found that the world's laws were beginning to fade, or rather, assimilate. For example, the second realm was once obviously a low-level world, and there wasn't even a single demon. However, as the passageways were opened, the laws of the Saint Spirit realm began to be poured into that world, and this originally low-level world actually showed signs of leveling up. Previously, the second realm was almost destroyed by those revived existences. Now, it had completely recovered, and its level was even higher, with people continuously breaking through to become holy venerables. Zichen had been staying in the Tianwu world. This was what the two old men found when they went to look for Brady, and when they returned, they told Zichen. Thus, Zichen guessed that after the worlds were connected in the future, they would have unified power and laws. This didn't have any benefits for the Saint Spirit realm at present, because Zichen had already made this world the highest level. Now, the Saint Spirit realm had always been the party that paid the price. If they wanted the Saint Spirit realm to level up, they had to set their sights on the trial realm. However, no one had this ability at present. Another 2 years passed, and the number of demons in the Tianwu world increased. Zichen, who still hadn't seen Brady, decided to let everyone explore the trial realm. After all, only by going there and obtaining many fragments could they level up again. The current Saint Spirit realm was lacking in the trial realm and the Heaven's Chosen realm. If a few existences of this level appeared, Zichen could be more at ease. After receiving Zichen's weapons as a gift, everyone left one after another, leaving only Zichen to continue guarding here. He carried the bone staff and the black tower with him in case a sudden battle broke out. In the blink of an eye, 10 years passed. Those who were looking for Brady all gave up, and some went directly to the void in search of new power. The two old men, black and white, returned from the fourth realm and directly came to the Tianwu world. Seeing their disappointed expressions, Zichen said in surprise, "Still no news?" It had been 10 years, and there was no news of Brady at all. Zichen was very sure that when Brady escaped, he was only injured, and his life wasn't in danger. Then where did he go? At most, he escaped to the fourth realm. But the two of them searched for a long time and didn't find anything. Zichen looked at the disappointed two and suddenly said, "Is it possible that he's dead?" Dead? The two old men were startled, somewhat in disbelief. Blacklake said, "Even if he's injured, who can kill him?" Zichen asked, "None of you can? Our power can only protect ourselves, but it's very difficult to kill someone," Blacklake said. "This is also the rule restriction of the immortal spell realm. Otherwise, after descending to the lower realm, wouldn't we all become rulers?" When Blacklake sparred with Zichen, injuring Zichen was already extremely powerful. If he wanted to obliterate Zichen, that was impossible. The rule from the immortal spell realm didn't allow such a thing to happen. For 10 years, Brady didn't appear, and Zichen had reason to suspect that he was already dead. But looking at the myriad realms, who could kill him? At his peak, no one could. Then who could kill the heavily injured Brady? Thinking about it carefully, only an existence who also had the power of the void could do this. But why would such an existence hide after killing Brady? Why not come out and become the ruler of the myriad realms? Or rather, why hide? A mighty expert still had to hide and be afraid of the smallest thing. Did he have concerns? Suddenly, Zichen's expression changed as he thought of a possibility. A possibility that he couldn't figure out. Chapter 4969. When Theseus wanted to connect the myriad worlds, Zichen had suspected his motives. After all, there were many monitors, and everyone's combat strength was similar. They were on equal footing. Even if the myriad worlds were connected, there would still be 10,000 people who had the final say in the future. What was the point of Zeus working so hard? Selfless dedication? Zichen did not believe it at all. However, Brady's appearance made Zichen realize that there was a void power that was not weaker than the monitors. This made him see a second possibility. Brady had disappeared for 10 years and had not appeared. At his peak, Zichen did not believe that he would die silently. The only possibility was that the other party had been killed 10 years ago when he escaped with serious injuries, and that person was most likely Zeus. Only after he killed Brady would he choose to continue enduring silently. He could not let the other monitors know that he had a stronger ability than everyone else. Otherwise, the other monitors might not cooperate and might even gang up on him. Zichen told the two old men his guess. Both of them were shocked. It was obvious that this possibility existed. The two of them had even agreed that this was the truth. Otherwise, why would Brady not appear for 10 years? Seniors, don't make it public. Just pretend that you don't know everything. Zichen said, it will take a long time to connect the myriad worlds. It's better not to break this rare moment of peace. What Zichen needed the most now was time. If those guys had not been so aggressive back then, Zichen would have retreated if he could. He was not willing to confront Brady head-on. It was the same now. He was not strong enough and was not willing to confront Theseus head-on. The two old men nodded, but their expressions were solemn. If this is the truth, I plan to go to the trial realm again. Zichen looked at the two old men. I want to find more void fragments and try to break through quickly. Balek glanced at Blacklake. The latter was hesitant. Balek said, at this point, we should be flexible. Sometimes, being too rigid may not be a good thing. Zichen did not understand what the two were talking about. Blacklake nodded. All right, it's time for a change. Who knows what this place will become in the future? Then, he looked at Zichen and said, you can go. As for your friends, we will lower the exchange points for some items so that they can grow faster. This was originally against the rules, but the two of them chose to make an exception. After all, the situation in the world had changed. They had to let the Saint Spirit world have the power to protect itself as soon as possible. The two of them had not been in vain as they had watched the Saint Spirit world grow step by step from the previous turbulent era to the present day. Zichen hurriedly thanked him. Now, he didn't have to worry about Su Mengyaro and the others. On the same day, Zichen entered the trial grounds. He didn't greet the others and went straight to Peace City. He then entered the void to search for broken worlds and lore fragments. In truth, there were already quite a few experts stationed in the Saint Spirit world. A large portion of the people who had come from Peace City had stayed behind. However, they were not local existences. Once there was danger, they would definitely leave. Blackstone entered the Sea of Consciousness and could not guide Zichen. Therefore, Zichen relied on his own luck to search for broken worlds in the void. A few days later, he found a palm-sized fragmented world and barged into it. There was no longer any life in this world. The entire world was in ruins. After searching for a while, Zichen walked out of this world. Boom! This broken world shattered, leaving behind nearly 100 fragments. Zichen put them away. For the next half a year, Zichen had been searching in the void. He did not dare to go far, let alone enter the depths of the void. This was because if his guess was wrong and Brady quietly came back, it would be a huge disaster for the Saint Spirit world and the Tianwu world. Another half a year passed, and Zichen returned to Peace City. There were only a few people in the city. They traveled back and forth between the city and the void. Like Zichen, they still had a goal to pursue in cultivation. Most of the others had left. During this time, there were also many people who had gone to the depths of the void. Obviously, they all wanted to become the second Brady. Zichen left Peace City and returned to the trial realm. He met with Blacklake, who told him that everything was normal. Brady still had not appeared. Zichen was relieved. Then, he went to look for Tyrant, the Devil Ape, and the others. Because of the weapons he had given them, they were like fish in water after coming here. Furthermore, Blacklake had deliberately gone easy on them. Not only had their realms increased by a lot, but they also had more equipment on them. As for Meow Meow and the others, because they had stayed here for a long time, they had advanced to the trial realm. Zichen had obtained a lot of fragments previously, and their grades were very suitable for the trial realm. Therefore, they did not need to explore the void for the time being. In the blink of an eye, another 10 years had passed. Brady had been completely forgotten. Only Zichen would occasionally talk about him. Now, he was certain that Theseus had killed Brady. Theseus possessed extraordinary strength. In the past 20 years, Theseus had done his best to search for the world coordinates. He had already opened up passages to hundreds of worlds. These worlds were currently numbered. Right now, He had only opened up the passages and maintained the original state. He had not really managed them yet. Time passed. Zichen had been cultivating in the void. In his sea of consciousness, his soul was constantly absorbing the power of the black stone, causing it to become even stronger. His physical body was also growing because he had obtained the power of the immortal golden body. After concluding that Brady was dead, he did not go back. He moved further and further away from Peace City. However, he still did not dare to enter the depths of the void. During this time, he had seen many worlds destroyed. Some of them were indeed high-level worlds. However, he had never seen a weapon comparable to the Bone Staff, Golden Bell, Dao Sword, and the like. After 100 years, Zichen's soul finally reached a critical point. After breaking through with the help of the Saint Spirit Realm's will, he broke through again. The heaven's chosen realm, Buzz. In Zichen's sea of consciousness, the black stone trembled. Waves of soul power continuously rippled out and poured into his soul. This soul power was extremely pure and strengthened Zichen's soul. At the same time, Zichen's heart was beating violently, transmitting the power from his heart to his body. At the same time that his cultivation had broken through, Zichen's physical body would also welcome a new breakthrough. After reaching the middle realm, Zichen planned to go back and take a look. This time, as soon as he returned to the trial realm, Black Lake appeared. He told Zichen that Theseus had returned and wanted to see him. "See me." Zichen was slightly stunned. He had a bad feeling in his heart. He immediately returned to the Saint Spirit realm. However, before he could reach the Tianwu world, a space suddenly opened. Theseus walked out. Chapter 4970. Theseus asked Zichen this question as soon as he arrived. Zichen asked in return, "Why?" Zeus smiled faintly. "Why don't you guess?" Zichen shook his head. Zeus said, "I've always felt that you're like a hero. You're upright and plain-spoken. You're a very upright person." Zichen looked at him in confusion. "I didn't expect you to think of me as such a great person. But I didn't expect you to say things that don't mean," Zeus said. Zeus said, "But that's good too. It'll be easier to survive in this chaotic world with more life and life. So, you clearly know why Brady didn't appear, but you pretended not to know." Seeing Zeus' faint smile, Zichen's expression didn't change much, but his mood became very bad. "You don't have to deny it to me. Someone who can open the infinite realms must be very smart." Zeus looked at Zichen. "If you didn't guess why Brady didn't appear, you wouldn't have gone to the trial realm to cultivate at ease." "Oh, did you break through again? Amazing, really amazing." Now that he had said this, it was obviously not as simple as just probing. But this also confirmed Zichen's guess. But now, Zeus didn't intend to hide it anymore. Zichen said, "So, you're here to fight with me?" "Fight? Are you kidding?" Zeus smiled and said, "The infinite realms need to be opened, and the laws need to be remade. I still have many things to do. How can I have the energy to fight with you? Then why are you looking for me?" Zichen looked at Zeus. "I have a few small requests that I need you to agree to." "What requests?" Zeus said, "Give me the 5 great golden bells, the path sword, and the black tower, and then go into the depths of the void." "What did you say?" Zichen looked at Zeus as if he was looking at an idiot. "I know what you care about, so I can promise that I'll protect your Saint Spirit realm from now on," Zeus said. Hughes said, "But the prerequisite is that you have to give me those things, and then stay in the depths of the void." Looking at Zichen's ugly expression, Zeus said, "This is the only path I've left for you. If you refuse, then we'll just have to fight. But I'm not as stupid as Brady. I won't fight you to the death. I'll think of a way to keep you busy. Then, I'll get others to attack the Saint Spirit realm. In the end, it is very likely that you will still be alive, but the people you care about will all die. The Saint Spirit realm might not even exist anymore." The smile on Zeus's face didn't diminish. His tone was very calm, but every word he said hit the nail on the head. Zichen did not think that the other party was joking. Compared to Brady, he was much more sinister. One had to be very careful when dealing with such people. Therefore, Zichen did not respond immediately. He chose to remain silent. Actually, you don't even have the right to choose. Sue said, if you were that idiot Brady, I definitely wouldn't use this method. But you're not him. You have concerns. You care about the people of the world. You have people you care about, unlike that brute who only cares about himself. Seuss pointed around. So, I have too many ways to deal with you. But you can only silently endure. You can only choose passively. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences of angering me. The other party had already thought of a path for him. I can't believe you. Zichen said, if I leave, you'll still destroy this place. There's no point in me destroying this place. Seuss smiled. The one who's a real threat to me is you. As long as you leave, I'll be number one here. There are countless opportunities in the void. After obtaining the power of the void, I'll still return, Zichen said. At that time, you'll be in even more danger. The void is very big. Many people have been there, but how many have returned? Seuss said. So, the probability of you returning is very small. Of course, the probability is small, but why am I not worried? Seuss answered his own question. Because I read Brady's memories. It's almost impossible for him to return from the depths of the void. And he's just an exception. This kind of exception won't happen a second time. Zichen understood. This way, it would be the safest. He could avoid a major battle and allow others to take advantage of the situation. He could also easily eliminate a powerful opponent. Seuss gave him a choice, and only one choice. Zichen shook his head. No, I can leave, but I won't give you my things. Because there are unknown dangers in the void, I have to protect myself. Seuss smiled. You don't have the right to bargain with me. Right now, you can only do what I say. You can only listen, not talk. Zichen shook his head again. The things are mine. Of course, I have the right to choose. I can't leave anything behind. I have to stay by your side. Suggestion overruled. Fine. I'll leave the 5 great golden bells and the Dao sword to you, but I have to take the Black Pagoda. This is my bottom line. If you don't agree, then we can only fight. Zichen said in a low voice, perhaps everything is as you say. But if the end of the world is destruction, then I don't mind fighting. You're right. I do care about the lives of many people. But if I can't protect them by sacrificing myself, then I choose to fight to the death. This way, the world will be gone, but I may survive and wait for an opportunity to take revenge. Seeing the decisiveness in Zichen's eyes, Seuss nodded. That's fine. I need the 2 seniors to testify. Zichen said, if you don't keep your promise, no one will know. The 2 old men, black and white, soon appeared. The 2 of them did not know that the 2 sides had reached an agreement. After Zichen explained, their expressions changed. I'll have to trouble the 2 seniors to testify for me. Zichen cupped his fists at the 2 of them. Okay. Blacklake nodded and said, when necessary, we will tell the world about what you've done today. In front of the 2, Zichen took out the Dao sword and the 5 great golden bells and removed the ownership. These were all things that came from the Dao of divine glyphs. They were absolute treasures. Seuss put them away, then smiled. Okay, you can leave at any time. Remember, don't stay here for too long. Seeing Seuss leave, a sullen expression appeared on Blacklake's face. Obviously, Zichen was driven away by threats. Zichen returned to the Tianwu world and went to find Jolena to tell her some things. He did not say that he would be leaving forever. He just said that this time, he might be gone for a long time. After that, Zichen returned to the trial realm. Through Blacklake's means, he found Su Mengyaro and the others and told them that he would be going to the void for a period of time. Then, after spending some time with the girls in the trial realm, he stepped into the void. Chapter 4971. Zichen went into the depths of the void alone. The void was boundless, and he was the only one there. Occasionally, there would be a flash of light, sometimes it would be a remnant fragment of the laws, and sometimes it would be a broken world. The golden bell was gone. The Dao sword was also left behind. Fortunately, the massacre spirit was still there, and so was the bone staff. He also had the Black Tower with him. If he continued to stay in the Tianwu world, It was very likely that Suze would succeed. Whoosh! A beam of light appeared in his field of vision. Zichen flew towards that beam of light. He entered the light and saw a patch of yellow sand. This was a broken world. There should have been a lot of vegetation, but as the world shattered, the vitality began to fade. The vegetation disappeared, and the sky was filled with yellow sand. In fact, Zichen often came across such places. Most of the time, it was dead silent, and there would not be any living things. His eyes flashed. It was the immortal spiritual eye. As expected, he did not find anything. Most of the time, there was nothing of value here. After Zichen left, the world shattered with a bang, leaving behind the void fragments, which Zichen put away. The environment of the void was unchanging. There was no concept of time here. At first, Zichen could vaguely count the time, but gradually, he ignored it. He had been out for 5 years. 10 years. He remembered that the exact number was 3 years. He was not sure if he had reached the depths of the void. He thought that he probably had not, because he did not see anyone else. Many people had entered the void. Based on their cultivation level, the chances of death were not high. They should be exploring everywhere, and perhaps one day they would meet. But as Zichen went deeper, he did not discover anything. Roar! A giant beast appeared in Zichen's field of vision. It should have escaped from a fragment world. It was not easy to escape the cage of the laws. Zichen glanced at them from afar and turned around. At this moment, he saw the giant beast rushing towards him. From afar, it looked like a moving warship. Seeing the giant beast approaching, Zichen's expression changed slightly. Roar! The giant beast roared and opened its mouth, its sharp teeth gleaming with a cold light. Zichen had already chosen to dodge, but he hadn't expected the other party to take the initiative to attack. He extended his hand and slashed forward. A straight beam of golden light shot forward, passing through the giant beast's huge body. In the next moment, a river of blood appeared in the void. The huge body of the giant beast had been split into two. Zichen continued to fly forward, and the two halves of the giant beast's corpse fell into the void. His power was much stronger than when he left because he had refined too many fragments. Zichen entered a world where he saw a large number of buildings. After who knew how many years, the buildings were still intact, but there was no one inside. He used his immortal spiritual eye but didn't discover any restrictions in this place. As he continued to go deeper, the value of the world he discovered became smaller and smaller. As he descended, Zichen looked at these ancient buildings. This should have been a sect in the past. There was a meeting room and a place for cultivation. However, after walking around, he didn't find anything. After leaving this world, he followed his usual routine of forcefully shattering this place. The fragments he obtained were not of a low grade. These were useful for his cultivation. The road ahead was long and endless. Zichen had long forgotten the time and even the direction. Now, he seemed to understand why those who entered the void didn't return. It was very likely that they were lost. Looking around, he was in a daze. Kai. Zichen stretched out his hand and slashed forward. A beam of light flashed and disappeared. The void was still the same. It wasn't broken. Zichen's expression changed. Previously, when he was outside the trial realm, he could cut open the void, but he couldn't do so here. He was really lost. Zichen turned around and looked behind. If he kept going forward like this, he should be able to go back, right? Kai. 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 Attack after attack appeared, and light after light lit up in the void. After a while, all the light disappeared. Zichen stood in the void and was in a daze for a long time. About 2 hours later, Zichen turned around and continued to walk towards the depths of what he thought was the place. Now that he was lost, he might not be able to go back. However, he still hadn't found the so-called void power. Next, Zichen continued to move forward, exploring the worlds he encountered, not letting go of any place. The void power might be in these worlds. However, after walking for a long time, he still didn't see those who had left. If it wasn't for the number of fragments he encountered increasing, he would even suspect that he had been walking on the same spot. Boom! A world shattered in front of Zi Chen's eyes. Hundreds of fragments danced in front of Zi Chen. Swish. Zi Chen waved his sleeves and collected these fragments. This was the most common scene in the void. After walking for a long time, Zi Chen had lost count of how many fragments he had obtained. His combat strength had increased by a lot. Unfortunately, there were no enemies, so naturally, no one came to verify it. Most of the worlds he discovered were empty. There wasn't even a beast. He hadn't seen a living creature in a long time. Boom. 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 World after world shattered. Zi Chen continued forward. He, who had lost his sense of direction, guessed that one day, he might appear in the trial world again. Therefore, he would occasionally launch an attack, trying to see if he could break the void. However, he didn't succeed even once. Just like that, after completely losing his sense of direction and time, Zi Chen's vision finally lit up. Countless bright lights. It was as if there were countless fragments of worlds gathered together. It was so bright that it was somewhat dazzling. Zi Chen walked forward. The light made him a little dazed, and his body seemed to be out of control. Is this an illusion? Zi Chen's expression changed. He tried to clear his mind, and at the same time, activated his immortal spiritual eye. However, under the immortal spiritual eye, the front was still bright, proving that it wasn't an illusion. However, why was his body not under his control? Was he poisoned? However, at his level, he was already immune to all poisons. As he continued to walk forward, Zi Chen found that his body seemed to be tilting. His legs didn't seem to be his own. He raised his hand and looked. It was clearly in front of him, but it gave him a feeling that it was far away. Zi Chen was stunned. He tried hard to figure out what was going on. He found that his thoughts had become sluggish. What is going on? Zi Chen wanted to shout, but found that he couldn't speak. It was as if he had lost control of his thoughts. He couldn't make a sound. His limbs didn't seem to be his own. Even his thoughts were incomparably sluggish. Zi Chen didn't know what was going on. He was getting closer and closer to the light. Finally, he entered. He saw something rushing towards him. He immediately waved his hand in front of him. He wanted to activate his power, but he didn't succeed. This is a disorder of the laws. My laws are in disorder. Chapter 4972. A thought flashed through Zi Chen's mind. He knew what was going on with his current state. But soon, he was lost again and completely lost control of his body. This was an indescribable strange feeling. He clearly saw something, but it couldn't be clearly transmitted to his mind, let alone feedback. It seemed that there was a problem with the connection of his body. For example, a simple action of raising his hand became extremely difficult. His body couldn't achieve the original coordination at all. Zi Chen tried to move forward, but he felt his body tilting. In the end, he fell to the ground completely. His body was wriggling like a snake. In fact, this was all an illusion. He didn't move at all. Light flickered all around. This place was like the Milky Way beyond the ninth heaven. Countless streams of light were rotating, washing Zi Chen's body over and over again. Zi Chen was still trying to struggle and walk out of here, but it was useless. His body moved with the Milky Way and was baptized by the light. His body no longer listened to him. In his sea of consciousness, the black stone was still releasing power, strengthening Zi Chen's soul bit by bit, but the speed was a little slower. Finally, in the end, Zi Chen completely lost the strength to struggle, even if it was only a struggle of consciousness. He was still alive, but he was like a living dead, floating in the Milky Way. Countless fragments circulated in the Milky Way, like fragments left behind by a broken world. It was extremely dazzling. It was a pity that no one could appreciate this dazzling scene. As long as one got close to this place, they would be lost. After being washed over and over again, Zi Chen's body had an additional rule power. This power was like a rope, wrapping around his body. Following that, the second rule force fell and pressed down heavily on his body. Time had long lost its meaning here. 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years had passed. The rule power on Zi Chen's body grew more and more. From afar, it looked like ropes. It was also like seaweed at the bottom of the sea, tying up Zichen layer by layer. Zichen's heart had long stopped beating. Because of the compression of countless rule power, this heart had lost its vitality. In his sea of consciousness, the magical black stone was also silent and no longer released soul power. Zichen's soul power had also fallen into a deep slumber. Even more laws descended, wrapping around Zichen in layers, to the extent that his original appearance could no longer be seen. He continued to float along with the Milky Way. The Milky Way seemed to have no end, but it also seemed to be constantly circulating. After an unknown amount of time, his revolving body collided with another law that resembled a small mountain. Peng! The laws around him turned into motes of light and disappeared. Zichen's body appeared, and another person appeared in front of him. However, both of them were in a state of suspended animation, unable to sense anything in the outside world. However, due to this collision, the laws on Zichen's body disappeared. His heart began to beat again, albeit very slowly. Without any pressure, Blackstone continued to release his soul power, slowly strengthening Zichen's soul. At the same time, Zichen's body was still receiving the scouring of countless rule force. These rules could have come from different worlds. They were all different and varied. Some of the rule power would directly penetrate his body and not cause him any harm. There might even be a portion of the power left for his body to absorb. There was also a portion of the rule power that remained intact and fell on Zichen's body like seaweed. Just like that, more and more of them appeared, and Zichen's body was once again completely enveloped. His heart stopped beating, and Blackstone was also suppressed. There was no concept of time here. Zichen continued to rotate along with the Milky Way. After an unknown amount of time, the second collision came. Bang! Those rule power disappeared, and Zichen's body appeared for the second time. His heart and Blackstone gradually recovered. This repeated hundreds of times. Zichen's body had clearly changed. It became more transparent, as if it was about to merge with the Milky Way. Until one day, a large net fell from the sky. Just as it stretched out, Zichen came here and was wrapped up by the net. After that, the net began to shrink, and then dragged him upwards. Finally, after drifting for countless years, Zichen left the Milky Way for the first time. An old blind man with empty eyes scooped up Zichen and felt the heavy net. He could not help but smile. Another harvest. He carried the net on his back and went down 999 steps. After walking down the steps, his body suddenly lit up. It was a power. If Zichen woke up at this moment, he would definitely cry out in surprise. Because this power was the void power that he had been searching for. With the void power protecting his body, the old man carried the net and walked into the distance. This net was completely made up of invisible rule power. It shone brightly and was extremely sturdy. At the same time, Zichen, who was scooped out, was also enveloped by the rule power. It looked like he was lying in a piece of ice crystal. The old blind man came outside a wooden house and casually threw the net and Zichen to the side. Although he could not see, he skillfully untied the net and patted the rule power on the surface of Zichen's body. The old blind man nodded in satisfaction. The quality is not bad. Perhaps I can sell it for a good price. He put the net aside and turned to walk back into the house. Zichen was still lying there. At this moment, Zichen had left the Milky Way and was no longer suppressed by the countless rule power. His heart and black stone had awakened once again. They had been suppressed countless times, but they seemed to have an undying will. As long as the suppression was relaxed, they would slowly awaken. It was the same this time. The heart beat and injected power into Zichen's body. At this moment, Zichen's body was completely transparent. One could see a power circulating in his body. With the circulation of these powers, his body gradually began to feel more solid. The rule power that filled the surroundings seemed to be transforming into a physical body bit by bit. In his soul, the energy released by the black stone also increased. Zichen's soul, which had almost disappeared due to the erosion of the rule power, was finally replenished. As his soul gradually strengthened, the rule power on the surface of his body was also rapidly absorbed by his body. His body became clearer and finally turned into Zi Chen's original appearance. However, he still fell into a deep sleep and did not wake up. A voice came from the wooden house. It was unknown what the old man was looking for. Buzz. On the surface of Zi Chen's body, light circulated again. However, this time, it was no longer the rule power but a golden light. The golden light became brighter and brighter, and Zi Chen's soul became stronger and stronger. Buzz. Finally, the golden light on the surface of his body suddenly turned into a pure power. This power automatically protected his body. At this moment, Zi Chen opened his eyes. Chapter 4973. Sorry, the plot needs to be sorted out, so there is no update today. Thunder Marshal has no updates today. It is in your hands, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4974. Zi Chen opened his eyes and gradually regained consciousness. At the same time, some images appeared in his mind, but he wasn't sure if they were real or just a dream. He sat up and looked around. The first thing that attracted his attention was the fishing net. It was completely made of laws and was extremely extraordinary. He thought that it was some kind of offensive Dharma treasure. His gaze continued to move and saw a wooden house not far away. At this moment, Old Blind walked out of the room. When he saw Zi Chen, he was immediately stunned. Zi Chen looked at Old Blind and was also stunned. Old Blind was surrounded by light, giving him the feeling of Brady. That was because the light belonged to the power of the void. Senior, what is this place? Zi Chen asked. You actually woke up on your own. Old Blind said, seemingly very surprised. Senior, did you save me? Zi Chen cupped his fists and said, I'm Zi Chen. Thank you for saving me, Senior. Old Blind shook his head and said, it's just fate. He held a wooden stick in his hand and placed it to the side. Since you're already awake, there's no need to go to the land of soul refinement anymore. Take this and follow me. A light appeared in Old Blind's hand and he handed it to Zi Chen. What's this? Zi Chen received the light and sensed that it was a very strange power of laws. This is the power of extremity. Refine it when you're weak. Old Blind walked to the side, picked up the fishing net, and walked forward. In this land of extremity, you have to resonate with heaven and earth at any time. Therefore, the power of extremity will always be consumed. The power of extremity? Zi Chen looked at him. This was a power he had never heard of. It's this power, Old Blind said. Isn't this the power of the void? The power of the void. Old Blind sighed. It's the power of the void. I haven't heard of such a thing in a long time. However, it's called the power of extremity here. Without it, you won't be able to survive. The Old Blind man turned to look at Zi Chen. You have one too. Zi Chen lowered his head to take a look. Only then did he realize that his entire body was shining with golden light. At first, he thought that it was immortal power, but now it seemed that it was not the case. Around his body, there was an additional strange energy, which was the so-called void energy. I actually have the power of the void. Zi Chen was stunned. He couldn't believe it. How is this possible? How did I obtain the void energy? No one can give an accurate answer to this. Perhaps you accidentally obtained it from the extreme Milky Way, or perhaps you comprehended it on your own. Old Blind walked in front. There are many theories regarding the first force, but none of them are uniform. But there is one thing, all those who awaken in the land of extremity possess the power of extremity. What about those who can't wake up? Zi Chen asked again. It will be assimilated by the laws and turned into extreme energy, allowing those who possess extreme energy to survive. Zi Chen was a little confused, but he didn't ask any more questions. He needed to feel his own strength first. His realm was still there, but there was only one force left, which was the extreme energy. Soon, they came to a stone staircase that led upwards. Old Blind turned back and said, when you reach the top, don't look down. Just close your eyes and wait for me. Zi Chen nodded. He followed Old Blind up the stairs. After reaching the first stone step, the light around him disappeared. Zi Chen was a little surprised. Old Blind said, if there comes a day when you run out of extreme energy, you can come here and hide. There is no need to consume energy here. After you go up, you must not look down, or you will get lost in the extreme Milky Way. A scene suddenly appeared in Zichen's mind. While he was in a trance, he seemed to have entered a dazzling place. Then, his memory became blurry and he was completely lost there. There were a total of 999 steps on the stone staircase. Zichen finished counting them out of boredom. There was a platform at the top. Old Blind held up the nomological net and threw it far ahead. The net fell down. Zichen subconsciously lowered his head and saw a dazzling light. Then, his consciousness became blurry. His body was no longer under his control, and the energy in his body became chaotic. The old blind man seemed to have guessed this would happen. He calmly grabbed him and had him lie down beside him. Not long after, Zichen woke up and regained consciousness. He sat up and looked around. Old Blind was still sitting beside him. Phew, Zichen exhaled and felt that it was a close call. You recovered faster than I imagined. Old Blind's voice sounded. What was that just now? Zichen asked. The extreme Milky Way, said Old Blind. That's the extreme Milky Way? Zichen's expression changed as he was alarmed. Just a moment ago, he seemed to have seen countless laws. They intertwined in a chaotic manner, causing his soul to instantly get lost. That's right. I fished you out from here. Old Blind said, fortunately, you woke up, but unfortunately, you woke up too quickly. I didn't get my reward. What reward? Zichen asked. I sent you to the extreme whirlpool in the land of soul refinement. I was able to obtain some extreme energy. Old Blind's tone had always been calm. However, when he mentioned the extreme energy, there were some ripples in his voice, as if he felt that it was a pity. It's this kind of power. Is it very precious? Zichen took out that power. In this place, having it means having a life. Do you think it's precious or not? Old Blind sat at the side and lowered his head to look down. No one can see the extreme Milky Way clearly. Just a glance will cause one to get lost. Therefore, in order to survive here, I dug out my own eyes. That way, I wouldn't need to use my eyes to see. So that's how it is. Zichen was moved. Then, he put away the extreme energy. You saved me. I will repay you. Old Blind said, what you need to think about now is how to survive, not repay me. Or, if you really have no way out, you can do what I did. Dig out your eyes and become a corpse fisherman. Then why don't you go back? Zichen asked. Back to the trial realm? Trial realm? Old Blind was slightly stunned. Is that where you came from? Zichen asked again. Old Blind laughed. There's only the way to come here, but there's no way back. Impossible. I saw someone go back with my own eyes. When he said this, Zichen thought of what Seuss had said. He had searched Brady's memories, and it was said that it was very difficult for someone to return from the depths of the void. That was why Brady had asked him to come. Oh, someone succeeded. Old Blind was not surprised. That person should have left from the extreme Milky Way. It seems like his luck is not bad. How does one leave the extreme Milky Way? Jump in. Perhaps you can leave. Zichen was dumbfounded. One would get lost just by looking at it. How could one survive if one jumped in? Chapter 4975. The following plot is not smooth, so there are no updates today. The recent updates will be unstable, so I will try to straighten out the outline before the end of the month. Thunder Marshall has no updates today. It is currently in your hands, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4976. Seeing the old man reel in the net, Zichen asked, Did you get anything? I don't know. Zichen subconsciously stood up and wanted to look down, but he quickly reacted and sat back down. He could only wait for the old man to slowly reel in the net and see if he could salvage anything. But this time, the net was empty. There was nothing. The old man's expression was calm as he continued to cast the net. It was said that this kind of thing often happened. Zichen sat behind the old man, thinking about what the old man said earlier. Can I really go back by jumping in here? Maybe. It was rare for someone to talk, so the old man said, "No one knows where the Milky Way leads to. Since you saw someone with extremity power from outside, perhaps you left through the Milky Way. Is this the only way? I don't know if this counts as a way, but there's no other way." The two of them fell silent for a long time. If this place doesn't consume power, why did you go back to the wooden house? Zichen broke the silence. Wouldn't it be better to stay here? The old man said without turning his head, not consuming power here is only relative. In fact, power will disappear after a long time. If you continue to stay here, you'll only be waiting for death. What happens if you die? Zichen asked. You'll disappear. The two of them chatted like this. During this time, the old man reeled in the net several times, but it was to no avail. When he reeled in the seventh net, he finally found something. It was a large piece of crystal that emitted intense light. It looked like a large piece of law fragment. Is there someone in here? Zichen looked at the crystal. I'm not sure. The old man carried the net down, Zichen followed behind. After walking down the stairs, the old man's body lit up. Zichen also used extremity power. Extremity power was the power of the void. The current Zichen already had power comparable to Brady's, but he could no longer return. He hadn't seen Brady's memories, so he didn't know how he could return. But since the Seers dared to let him come here, he was obviously confident that he couldn't return. Returning to the wooden house, the old blind man took a wooden stick, put it on the net, and left with the crystal. Zichen followed behind him. We're going to the soul refining grounds, we can exchange for extreme energy there. As old blind walked, he talked about the situation in the land of soul refinement. There wasn't much of a fluctuation in his emotions. The heavens and earth here were extremely oppressive. It was as if there was a great gravitational force on his body, causing Zichen to lose the ability to fly. Moreover, as he moved forward, his extreme force began to be consumed. Although the consumption was not great, the old man had said that once his extreme force was exhausted, it would mean death. That was still a terrifying thing. Therefore, after walking for an hour, Zichen asked, "How long will it take?" 4 hours, the old man said. Zichen's expression changed when he heard this. Doesn't that mean that going back and forth will consume a strand of energy? Save it. Half of it is enough. The old man's answer left Zichen speechless. This was equivalent to consuming his own life force. How could he save it? Fortunately, the old man had given him a strand of extreme force. Right now, he could clearly feel how precious this strand of energy was. The old man didn't know how many times he had walked this path, so after 4 hours, they finally arrived at their destination. In front of them was an enormous whirlpool. It was spinning like a long river, releasing bright light. Seeing this, Zichen immediately closed his eyes. This is the land of soul refinement, also known as the extreme whirlpool. However, it is not dangerous. The old man's voice rang in his ears. Zichen opened his eyes and saw the old man walking in front of the extreme whirlpool. Then, he took out the fishing net from behind him, took out the crystal, and threw it into the whirlpool. Will there be a person inside? Zichen asked again. No, the old man replied. Why are you so sure? If it's a person, throw it into the extreme whirlpool and it will wake up on its own. Then what if it's a person who won't wake up? Zichen asked again. Then it's not a person, it's a law crystal. The old man answered, if it's a person, it will wake up. If it's not, it's a law crystal. Zichen understood. There might be people who can't wake up, but they've already become part of the laws. Or rather, they've become law crystals. From the whirlpool in front of them, streaks of light suddenly flew out. This was pure extreme force. There were a total of 4 streaks that flew out from the whirlpool. The old man reached out his hand to catch them. The old man retracted his power, turned around, picked up the fishing net, and began to return. Zichen followed behind. You can only produce so many streaks of power each time. 4 streaks of power is already quite a lot. Sometimes, there's only 1. On the way back, the old man clearly sped up. Zichen looked around along the way. Can this extreme force grow? It can, the old man answered, Once you enter the extreme whirlpool, you might be able to obtain even more extreme force. As if guessing what Zi Chen wanted to ask, the old man continued, however, after entering the whirlpool, the consumption of extreme force will be great. Zi Chen went silent. Following behind the old man, he began to think about the direction of his future. I'm already having trouble surviving. Do I have to destroy my own eyes as well? Other than this, how else can I obtain power? Zi Chen asked. Obviously, he couldn't destroy his own eyes. Further out, it's said that there's a kind of strange beast living here that has existed for as long as this place. Once caught, you can also put it into the extreme whirlpool in exchange for a portion of extreme force. The old man spoke at a steady pace. Have you seen it before? Zi Chen asked. No. The old man slowly shook his head. Leaving this place means death. No one can leave. No one? Zi Chen asked. You mean, there are other people here? There are a few existences like me, but I didn't meet them this time. The old man returned. Zi Chen followed him back to his room. Here, the rate at which extreme force was disappearing was much slower, but Zi Chen could still feel the loss of power. Zi Chen stood up and walked outside. Where are you going? To the stairs. There's no consumption there. It wasn't easy for the old man to obtain power, so he couldn't keep giving it to him for free. It's not safe there. There'll occasionally be riots. You'll get lost, the old man said. I'll close my eyes. Zi Chen memorized the path and returned to the stone stairs he came from. There were a total of 999 steps, but he didn't reach the top, only stopping after 3 steps. Right now, he was feeling a bit weak, because his extreme force had already been consumed by a lot. Do I really have to destroy my own eyes and become a corpse fisherman? Zi Chen was a bit worried. Boundless light bloomed from the galaxy, almost like a gust of wind. Zi Chen closed his eyes and fell asleep. Chapter 4977. Zi Chen sat on the stone steps in a daze, not daring to believe all of this. Through careful observation, he found that a portion of his extreme power had indeed recovered. Before sleeping, he already felt weak. He thought that since he wouldn't consume too much energy here, he would refine his extreme power after waking up. He didn't expect that after waking up, his extreme power had recovered a bit. At this moment, the old man came with the fishing net, ready to start a new day. Senior, if I stay on the stone steps, can the extreme power recover on its own? Zi Chen asked. No. The old man looked at Zi Chen and sensed the change in his aura. He was a bit surprised. Zi Chen took out the extreme power, but he hadn't refined it yet. The old man's expression became a bit surprised. You're a bit special. The old blind man walked up the stone steps without asking for the reason. Zi Chen still followed behind. Have you thought about it? The old blind man asked. What do you want to do? What can I do? Zi Chen asked. If you stay here, you can only be a corpse fisherman. If you leave, I don't know. The old man said. The people here almost never communicate. It's already kind of them not to rob when they meet. It's said that if you keep going deeper, you'll be able to survive. Zi Chen followed behind the old man, still not making a decision. He didn't look down and just sat there, watching the old man cast the net again and again. This time, the old man's luck was very bad. He didn't harvest anything for an entire day. It was said that this was very normal. Sometimes, there would be no harvest for several days. After that, the old man put away the net and planned to leave. Do you want to go back with me? The night here might not be perfect. The old man said. Zi Chen shook his head. He didn't consume much energy today, and the extreme power was still in his body. With this power, Zi Chen didn't have to worry about his life being in danger. The old man left, not insisting on inviting him. Zi Chen continued to stay here. This time, he stood on the 10th stone step. The sky gradually darkened. There was only day and night here, no sun or moon. Because he fell into a deep sleep yesterday, Zi Chen didn't see the night. Today, he wanted to see it. There seemed to be movement in the Milky Way behind him. Zi Chen didn't dare to turn around to look, for fear of danger. The old man was not here. Once he got lost, no one would be able to find him. Gradually, the sky turned completely dark. He couldn't even see his own fingers. Chen felt a little bored and decided to cultivate here. Cultivation was something he had done for many years. Naturally, he closed his eyes and began to circulate his cultivation method. However, it didn't have any effect because the rules of the past could no longer be used here. This was just a habit, and Chen did not expect a miracle to happen. His heart was beating. In this dark night, the sound seemed to be exceptionally clear. Suddenly, Chen opened his eyes. In the dark night, a bright light flashed through his eyes. In his perception just now, there was a surge of power emerging from his heart and entering every part of his body. The power that entered his body was like the power of extremity. His heart came from a dilapidated world, and there were layers of seals inside. After many years of sealing, it still had extraordinary power, and it was all thanks to the help of the black stone. Now, in this place where the rules were different, the power of extremity was flowing out from his heart, which made Chen feel quite surprised. Because this might be his hope of survival. He closed his eyes again, trying to maintain a meditative state. After a while, that strange feeling appeared again. Every time his heart beat, a trace of power would surge out and enter his body. This power was very weak, but it was real. As his heart beat, it entered his body through his blood. Chen silently sensed it, and this time, he did not make too much of a fuss. After a long time, he opened his eyes, and there was a look of pleasant surprise in his eyes. Yesterday was not an illusion. His body could indeed recover extremity power, and this power came from his heart. Chen did not know why this was, but for the current situation, this was a good thing. At that moment, a gust of wind appeared, and Chen felt his body suddenly become cold. A bone-piercing chill entered his body, causing him to shiver. In the next moment, his expression changed because two rays of light had appeared in front of him. They were like gems, shining in the dark night. Chen stood up, his expression full of vigilance. His body glowed as he activated the power of extremity. This was not the light of a gem, but a pair of eyes. In the dark night, Chen could not see the other side clearly, but he could guess. One man and one beast faced off. The pair of eyes seemed to be getting closer, and Chen retreated. There were more than 900 steps in total, so he was not worried that the other side would follow him. This was because in Chen's heart, he felt that the stone steps might be able to stop it. His surroundings became even darker, and only the two rays of light remained. Suddenly, Chen's heart jumped, and his eyes glowed. This was the celestial spiritual eye. He had successfully activated it. His surroundings seemed to have turned from night to day, and his vision suddenly became clear. In front of him, there was a black beast coldly staring at him. Chen was not sure if he could kill the other side, so he did not dare to act rashly. And this black beast was also looking at Chen. Chen noticed that the other side's body did not light up. In other words, it did not need the power of extremity in here. Why is that? The confrontation lasted for a full 15 minutes, and finally the other side retreated. But Chen still did not dare to go down, and even retreated a bit, standing in the middle of the stone steps. He had doubts in his heart, so he needed to ask the old man tomorrow. This night was destined to be a sleepless night. When the sky brightened, Chen sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. He sensed the trace of power in his heart. About half an hour later, the old man came. Chen went to the bottom of the stone steps to greet him. "Senior, last night, I met a black beast." "Oh." The old man's expression changed. It was below the stone steps, and did not come up, but it seemed very fierce. Chen said, "But I noticed that it did not have the power of extremity around it. Why is that?" The old man shook his head, indicating that he did not know, because he had never seen such a black beast, only heard of it. Perhaps, they were born here, and their bodies have adapted to the rules here. The old man continued to cast the net. This was just his guess, and he said it casually. However, Chen's expression changed, because a similar power was being released from his heart. Then what was the connection between the two? Obviously, there was no way to verify it now, at least he had to stay here for a few more days to see his own situation. Suddenly, Chen thought of something and said, "Senior, Can you support me a bit? I want to see the Milky Way. You will lose yourself in a glance. I want to try, please help me. Okay then. Chen walked forward, and when he was about to see the Milky Way, he used his immortal spiritual eye. Chapter 4978. Too many things had happened recently, and he did not have a single chapter in stock. He could barely keep up with the new book, and would try to write a few chapters in stock tomorrow or the day after. Thunder Martial Arts has not been updated today. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4979. Chen saw the Milky Way. It was a dazzling light that contained countless laws. Chen had never seen some of these laws before. Countless precepts formed an existence that resembled a river that flowed down below. It was vast and mighty, bringing with it a sense of grandeur. Chen was shocked and glad at the same time. Old Blind raised his head and looked at Chen. His expression changed. You can see it? Chen nodded. I think I know what I should do. Old Blind's eyes were filled with shock. What did you see? A Milky Way formed by countless laws. Chen said. Old Blind nodded. You're indeed extraordinary. At this moment, Chen suddenly retreated and sat down. Why aren't you looking? Isn't it nice? Old Blind asked again. It's nice, but I look down on it. Chen was helpless. In a short moment, his extreme power had been greatly depleted. Chen was certain that it was caused by looking at the Milky Way. Because when he used the immortal spiritual eye last night, it was not so depleted. However, he was not worried at the moment. He sat beside Old Blind and began to meditate to recover. Old Blind sat at the side and remained silent. After a while, Chen opened his eyes. His extreme power had recovered a little. Amazing, really amazing. Old Blind sensed it and exclaimed. To him, this was a miracle that he had witnessed. Seems like you have a chance to enter the depths. Old Blind said. Depths? There are many people here who have gone to the depths. Only ordinary existences would stay outside and become corpse fishermen. Old Blind said. Those who go to the depths have some ability. What's in the depths? I don't know. Old Blind did not know about the depths. Chen did not need to know because he had to rely on himself. Therefore, he wanted to become a corpse fisherman. It's easy to become a corpse fisherman. Go to the edge of the area and use your mind. Following Old Blind's instructions, Chen walked down the more than 900 stone steps and arrived 500 feet away from Old Blind. He took a step forward and used his mind. Wang. In an instant, ripples surged out in front of Chen, and countless rules appeared between heaven and earth. These rules were completely different from what Chen had seen. They converged in front of him, forming a series of stone steps. A total of 999 levels. On the stone steps, boundless light shone, and laws flickered. After a while, everything returned to silence. Right now, Chen seemed to be able to understand why the strange beasts hadn't ascended the stairs yesterday. This place was completely made up of rules, so it might have a deterrent effect on it. Chen walked up the stairs and arrived at the top. He saw a large net of laws neatly placed there. Chen glanced at the sky, feeling very surprised. Who created this? Even if they were drawn by rules, who was the one who set the rules here? His eyes flickered as he activated his immortal spiritual eyes. Then, he started to cast the net far away. Chen then sat down and waved at Old Blind from afar. Afterwards, Chen withdrew his immortal spiritual eye so that he wouldn't use it anytime, anywhere. Chen closed his eyes and continued to recover. About an hour later, he started to reel in the net, but there was no gain. He continued to cast the net, using his immortal spiritual eyes. Then, he continued to recover. On this day, he reeled in the net several times, but there was no gain. At night, Chen didn't go back with the old man. Today, the old man also didn't gain anything. After 2 days of no gain, Chen saw the hardships of life here. He also knew that the old man wasn't easy. He still hadn't used his extreme energy. When night came, Zi Chen sat cross-legged on his own stairs, in the middle. In the dark night, he couldn't see anything. The old man said that this place wasn't safe at night, and that there might be some changes in the Milky Way. With the immortal spiritual eyes, the Milky Way wasn't so scary anymore. Zi Chen planned to go up and take a look. At the top of the stairs, Zi Chen looked down and saw the Milky Way again. Compared to the day, the light here was more intense, and the Milky Way flowed faster. Vaguely, he could see large amounts of true law crystals floating up and down. Zi Chen's heart skipped a beat. Could he cast the net at night? He decided to give it a try, and cast the net down. Then, he turned around and looked down the stairs. The strange beasts from yesterday didn't appear. Behind them, there was a bright light, but in front of them, there was only darkness. Seeing no abnormalities, Zi Chen decided to continue recovering. After an hour, Zi Chen began to reel in the net. This time, there was a gain. A huge crystal appeared in the net. Finally, there was a gain. Zi Chen put it aside and cast the net a second time. This time, there was no gain. Then, there was a third time, and a fourth time. When the old man came the next day, Zi Chen had already fished up 2 crystals. There might be people inside, but after waiting for an entire night and not seeing anyone revive, it must be a pure crystal. Zi Chen carried the 2 crystals on his back and walked down the stone steps. When the old man saw this, he was very surprised. Zi Chen gave the old man a crystal. The old man refused at first, but in the end, he couldn't resist Zi Chen and accepted it. The 2 of them walked towards the extreme vortex. As long as he exchanged for extreme energy, Zi Chen would have more confidence. "How's the Star River at night?" the old man asked on the way. "It's brighter and more turbulent. I can faintly see some real objects. I suspect those are crystals." Zi Chen described everything he saw. The old man listened silently. Obviously, he couldn't see, otherwise, he would be lost. When they arrived at the extreme vortex, the 2 of them threw the crystals in one after another. According to the old man, if there was someone inside, they would revive in the extreme vortex. If there was no one, they would become extreme energy. 2 rays of light flew towards Zi Chen and turned into extreme energy. 3 rays of light came from the old man's side. The amount of extreme energy one could obtain depended on luck. The old man took out a ray of extreme energy to give to Zi Chen, but Zi Chen refused. He had a clear advantage. As long as his luck wasn't bad, he would have an endless harvest. But the old man was different. After the 2 of them returned, the old man went to cast another net, but didn't find anything the entire day. Zi Chen was recovering. When the sky darkened and the old man returned, he began to work. The first time, he didn't find anything. The second time, he found something. Then the third time, the fourth time, when the sky brightened, Zi Chen found 3 crystals. This time, he still wanted to give one to the old man, but the old man refused. No matter what Zi Chen said, the old man didn't want it this time. And so, the old man continued to climb the stairs, relying on himself. Zi Chen carried the 3 crystals on his back and went to the extreme vortex alone to exchange for energy. Chapter 4980. This was the second person Zi Chen met in this place besides the old man. He was also a corpse fisherman who had lost his eyes. After seeing Zi Chen, he was very surprised, but he didn't come over to greet Zi Chen. The old man had already exchanged for extreme energy and was going back. He looked at Zi Chen from afar, his gaze mainly falling on the 3 crystals behind Zi Chen. He was very surprised. 3 crystals at a time, this was a really big harvest. Zi Chen didn't take the initiative to talk to him. After walking to the extreme vortex alone, he threw the 3 crystals inside. If they were human, they would be able to revive themselves. If they weren't human, they would become extreme energy. 8 streams of extreme energy flew out one after another. Zi Chen put them away. After exchanging, Zi Chen began to return. During this time, his extreme energy had been consumed to a certain extent, so Zi Chen directly refined one. Like life force, as he refined it, the extreme energy he consumed was quickly replenished. This was the first time Zi Chen refined extreme energy since coming here, and it felt pretty good. After returning, Chen saw the old man pulling in the net. His luck was pretty good, he got a single crystal this time. The old man walked down the stairs, seemingly satisfied with just one. After saying goodbye to the old man, Chen watched him leave. He didn't cast the net during the day because he clearly didn't get much. After tasting the sweetness of 2 nights, he decided to work at night from now on. Chen now had a total of 10 streams of extreme energy. He planned to save some more to ensure that he had enough life force before going deeper. Looking at the sky, the old man wouldn't come again today. Chen waited until it was dark, then looked around. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, he continued to cast the net. The Milky Way at night was even more dazzling and surging. That night, Chen got 2 crystals. When the old man came in the morning, Chen greeted him and left with the 2 crystals. When he was about to reach the extreme vortex, he saw another corpse fisherman. They didn't talk. According to the old man's words, these people were extremely vigilant. Because it was not easy to survive, they would steal from each other. This time, Chen had obtained 4 strands of energy. He did not consume any of it during the journey, so he sat on the stone steps in a daze. The old man didn't gain anything today either, but he was used to it and wasn't depressed. Soon, it was night. Chen sat at the top of the stone steps. After casting the net, he began to cultivate. His heart was constantly pouring energy into his body. Currently, it was enough to sustain him using the immortal spiritual eye at night. That night, Chen obtained 3 crystals. When he met the old man during the day, the old man praised him. 2 more days passed. One day, when the old man arrived, he did not directly climb his own stone steps. Instead, he went to where Chen was. "Senior, are you looking for me?" Chen opened his eyes and looked at the old man. The old man said, "You've been exchanging for extreme energy too frequently recently, so you might have been targeted. Don't go exchanging for the next few days." Oh! Chen thought of other corpse fishermen. During this period, he had met them several times, but he had never greeted them. Moreover, they were all different people. It's too difficult to fish for crystals. Often, there will be people who don't get anything for 3 to 5 days. Not only do you get something every day, your gains are not small either. You need to be careful. After reminding Chen, the old man left. Chen sat there and thought for a while before deciding not to exchange for crystals. In fact, during this period of time, he had already saved up a lot of extreme energy. He already had thoughts of leaving. For 2 days, Chen did not go out to exchange. But at night, he was still fishing, and there were already 4 crystals beside him. On the 3rd night, it was unknown whether it was due to his good luck or not, but Chen had obtained a total of 5 crystals. Therefore, during the day, Chen found the old man and asked him to help. Although the old man was a bit hesitant, he did not refuse. Chen carried 5 crystals while the old man carried 4. The 2 of them walked towards the extreme whirlpool. This time, before they even reached the destination, corpse fishermen appeared. There were 3 of them. Not bad. The 3 of them walked forward. They did not have eyes, but their expressions showed that they were up to no good. Chen put the crystals on the ground and said coldly, "What do you want?" "Nothing. I'm just curious. You didn't destroy your eyes, so how did you become a corpse fisherman?" Among the 3, the one in the middle asked. "Can't I just close my eyes?" Chen said. "Easy for you to say. If it was so easy, why would we destroy our eyes?" The other one sneered. "Gentlemen, this seems to be against the rules." The old man walked up. "Old man, are you stupid? What rules are there here? Being alive is the biggest rule." The one in the middle had a cold expression. The 3 of them were holding a wooden stick in their hands, and they were holding it tightly. "I'll give each of you 1 strand of energy, and you can leave now, okay?" The old blind man said again. "You old thing, it seems that you're really stupid. There are 9 crystals in front of me. Why should I take 3 strands of energy?" The other one's expression was cold. "Because if you take 3 strands of energy, you can live. If you have any ideas about the 9 crystals, you will die." Chen said coldly. "There would be no peace anywhere, so strictly speaking, he was never a good person. For example, Zi Chen had the intention to kill, but he was willing to give the three of them a chance to live. What a joke. 3 against 2, do you think we're afraid of you? The other party waved the long stick in his hand and smashed it forward. Zi Chen clenched his right fist and punched out. Bang! Zi Chen retreated, his palm burning with pain. Idiot, how can your body of flesh and blood withstand my weapon? The other party came forward again and smashed the wooden stick down. The old man took the wooden stick and was about to step forward. Senior, retreat. I'll deal with them. Zi Chen's hand flashed, and the bone stick appeared. You want to compete in toughness? He smiled coldly and smashed the bone stick down. Whoosh! A ray of light flashed, and the long stick instantly turned into powder when it met the bone stick. At the same time, the bone stick's momentum did not decrease. After destroying the wooden stick, it landed on the other person's body and sent him flying. When the other party fell to the ground, half of his body had disappeared. The other party let out a scream and immediately took out a strand of extreme energy to refine. Seeing this, the other two people's expressions changed. One of them said involuntarily, "You're, whoosh, whoosh." Zi Chen stepped forward and smashed the bone stick down. Since he had decided to kill, there was no need to hold back. Bang! Bang! 2 loud tremors sounded, and the 2 people were sent flying. After they landed, they screamed in horror. One of them took out extreme energy to refine, while the other did not take out his energy in time. His body turned into light and disappeared. Not even a corpse was left. Chapter 4981. The 2 of them retreated in fear. They didn't expect to meet such a terrifying existence. The old man was also stunned. Zi Chen's strength was beyond his expectation. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Please. The 2 of them retreated. At this moment, the extreme energy they had just refined was repairing their disappearing bodies. Zi Chen's eyes were cold. The bone club in his hand struck again. Since he had decided to kill, of course, he wouldn't be merciful. Swoosh! As the bone stick fell, a ray of light scattered, and a person's body dissipated. Spare me, I have power, I'll give you power. The last person shouted in fear, immediately taking out 2 strands of extreme energy. You have power, but you still want to rob others? I said I would let you leave with me, why didn't you want to? Why do you have to die? In Zi Chen's hand, the bone club smashed again. The other party disappeared, leaving behind 2 strands of extreme energy. Zi Chen bent down and picked them up. It seemed that no matter where he went, there would be disputes. When Zi Chen returned, he saw 3 more strands of extreme energy. They were left behind by the 2 who had died earlier. It seemed that even if they disappeared, the extreme energy wouldn't disperse. Zi Chen put away the energy, walked back, and left with his crystals. On the way, he picked up a long club. The old man followed behind. After throwing 5 crystals into it, Zi Chen received 14 strands of extreme energy. He turned to look at the old man. The old man caught the remaining 4 crystals, then handed them to Zi Chen. Senior, farewell. Zi Chen didn't take them. Instead, he said goodbye to the old man. The old man was startled. You're leaving? He knew that Zi Chen would leave sooner or later, but he didn't expect it to be so soon. Zi Chen nodded and said, These strands of extreme energy are my thanks to you, Senior. Thank you for taking care of me during this time. You can't do that. You're going deeper. That's an unknown place. You need to bring more extreme energy. The old man refused. I still have a lot on me. Don't worry, Senior. Clasping his fists at the old man, Zi Chen turned and left. He walked through the extreme energy vortex, walking forward. The old man kept looking at Zi Chen until his figure disappeared. Take care, the old man muttered. He retracted all of his power and turned back. The 2 of them took opposite paths. The old man had already accumulated quite a bit of extreme energy, but he was already used to this kind of lifestyle, so he didn't want to change it. What lay ahead was unknown. Zi Chen continued forward. Along the way, he did not see anything. Even vegetation was rare. The wooden stick in his hand was a little heavy, showing its extraordinary side. However, in front of the bone staff, they were unable to withstand a single blow. The old man didn't know where the depths were, so he didn't give Zi Chen any directions. Zi Chen could only walk in the direction he thought was the depths. After walking for about an hour, Zi Chen took out a strand of energy to refine. The previous battle had caused him to expend quite a bit of his extreme power. In this kind of unknown place, everything had to be done with caution. It was a great taboo to not be able to maintain sufficient strength. There was no sun during the day, but judging by the time, it was almost dark. Zi Chen didn't find any other buildings, nor did he find any other place to rest. This night was destined to be unusual. As the sky gradually darkened, Zi Chen found a high ground and walked up. He sat cross-legged, waiting for night to come. There was no moon or Xing Chen in the night. Heaven and earth were completely dark. Only Zi Chen was bright. He opened his eyes. In this unfamiliar place, he felt a bit uneasy. His eyes couldn't see anything around him, which made him even more uneasy. He didn't try to use his immortal spirit eye, because he wasn't sure what he would see. The wind started to blow. Inside the howling wind, something seemed to be blowing on his body, causing his clothes to flutter. Maybe it was the wind that blew the leaves. Zi Chen held the staff in his hand and began to focus on circulating his cultivation technique. He maintained absolute focus, making himself even more vigilant. The howling wind was still howling around him, like the cries of ghosts. Zi Chen sat cross-legged there, not moving at all. Suddenly, the howling wind stopped. Zi Chen suddenly opened his eyes. There was a bright light flowing in his eyes. In his field of vision, two strange beasts appeared. They were trying to approach, but when they saw the light in Zi Chen's eyes, they were clearly shocked and retreated. Swish! The light flashed again. Zi Chen took out his bone staff. His eyes flashed with a cold light, and he immediately turned around, sweeping the bone staff in his hand. Bang! A strange beast that was pouncing towards him was hit, and its body rolled far away. After it landed, it let out a scream, and then fled in panic. Zi Chen looked ahead and saw that there were still two beasts that were slowly retreating. Zi Chen's body emitted light, like a lighthouse in the dark night. As his body spun in circles, there were 8 strange beasts around. His extreme power was quickly depleting. Because this was the wilderness, he needed to replenish his power. Zi Chen held the bone staff in his hand, pointing at those strange beasts. Whichever one he pointed at, it began to retreat, its cold eyes filled with vigilance and fear. Zi Chen withdrew his immortal spiritual eye, and the surroundings immediately became dark. But in the eyes of these strange beasts, he was definitely the brightest. Zi Chen held the bone staff in his hand, and even in the dark night, the bone staff was still bright. He closed his eyes again, but his heart was still unable to calm down. Those strange beasts were still wandering around, and Zi Chen could feel their presence, but they did not attack. Before, there were signs of attack, but now there were no signs of attack. Zi Chen suspected that the bone staff had deterred them. In order to test his guess, he poured a portion of energy into the bone staff. Wang! The bone staff's luster became even brighter. Zi Chen heard extremely faint sounds of movement, and those strange beasts were retreating. He opened his eyes again, and used his immortal spiritual eye, and saw that the strange beasts were indeed retreating. They stopped pouring energy into the bone staff, and approached again, but stopped when they were 4 zhong away, and did not come any closer. After repeating this a few times, Zi Chen finally felt relieved. After swallowing the second strand of energy, he began to meditate cross-legged, and operated his cultivation method. At the same time, his other hand also tightly grasped a strand of extreme power. When he killed those 3 people, Zi Chen discovered that as long as they were not killed instantly, he could use extreme power to revive them. Therefore, if the bone staff was unable to deter them, he could still replenish his energy at a critical moment after being attacked. This night was undoubtedly torturous for Zi Chen, but it would eventually pass. When the sky brightened, Zi Chen completely calmed down, and all the strange beasts retreated. Another 2 hours later, Zi Chen opened his eyes, and his mental state was extremely good. He jumped down from a high place, put away the bone staff, and picked up the wooden staff from the side, and continued to walk forward. Unknowingly, He increased his speed. This night, he did not spend the night, because he saw a city surrounded by high walls. Chapter 4982. This place could barely be considered a city. There were wooden fences around it that were dozens of feet tall, which should be able to keep those beasts at bay. Zichen walked in and found that there were quite a lot of people here. He became the center of attention as soon as he entered. Everyone was sizing him up, seeming to be very curious. "Excuse me, where is this place?" Zichen asked with a fist salute. "This is Dharma Breaker City." A middle-aged man walked toward Zichen with a smile. "Little brother, where are you from?" Zichen pointed into the distance. "That place." The middle-aged man smiled. "It must have been difficult to come all the way here, right?" He looked at Zichen from head to toe. "You weren't torn apart by the Dharma Breaker beasts." "You're quite lucky." "Dharma Breaker beasts?" Zichen was surprised. "You didn't encounter any?" The middle-aged man was surprised. "I encountered a few black beasts, but I don't know if they're Dharma Breaker beasts," Zichen said honestly. "That's them. You've already encountered them, but you still made it here. Looks like you're quite lucky." The middle-aged man smiled. "You're new here, so you don't have a place to stay, right? Come, I'll find you a place to stay. From now on, if there are no accidents, you'll be staying here." Zichen thanked him immediately. He didn't know anything about this place, so he really needed someone to lead the way. "We're called Dharma Breaker City because we're in the land of Dharma Breaker. As for how we got this name, no one knows. It's just passed down from generation to generation. In short, those who are capable go to better places, and those who aren't, stay here." The middle-aged man was very talkative. He talked about things here along the way, and suddenly smiled. "Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tommy. What about you, little brother? What's your name?" "Zichen." "That's a good name." Tommy spoke gently with a smile on his face. "This place is just like the outside world. You're from the outside, so you should have seen the corpse fishermen. They belong to the lowest class in the land of Dharma Breaker. They don't have any goals. They just waste time waiting for death. If they find something, they can live for 2 more days. If they don't, they can only wait for death. All of them are gluttonous and lazy, waiting for death. What a bunch of weirdos." Zichen said, "That's not entirely true. They're also very hardworking." "Zichen, don't overthink it. I don't mean to belittle them. I'm just talking about their current state." Tommy smiled and said, "Think about it. In order to survive, you would rather destroy your own eyes. If you have the courage, why don't you come here? Isn't it better to live there than outside? Actually, we're not that much better off than them. However, relatively speaking, our lives are much easier." Zichen looked at Tommy and asked curiously, "How do the people here survive?" "Hunting beast." Tommy said, "Everyone, let's work together and find the law breaker beast. After killing it, we'll be able to obtain the extreme energy." "Are they easy to kill?" Zichen asked again. "Of course it's not good to be alone, but it's not a problem if there are more people. However, there are dangers sometimes, and people often die." As they spoke, Tommy led Zichen to a residence that was built with wood and looked very sturdy. In fact, Zichen had already sensed that the wood here was very hard. Although there were few plants along the way, those that were found were all very tough. If they were in the outside world, they could be used as weapons. "A brother of mine used to live here, but he was killed by a law-breaker beast when he went out hunting, so this place has been empty ever since." Tommy explained, "Actually, this place doesn't belong to my brother. Everything here belongs to the mayor." Tommy pushed the door open. The room was very clean. There was a wooden table, a few stools, and a wooden bed. After entering, Zichen felt that the speed of energy loss had obviously decreased. He thanked him profusely. Compared to the vigilant corpse fishermen outside, the people here were much friendlier. Tommy waved his hand and said, "You're welcome." "Too extreme energy." "Huh." Zichen was startled. Tommy's smile didn't fade. "Zichen, it's not free to live here. You have to pay 2 extreme energy. Everyone is like that." Tommy pointed in a direction and said, "You forgot." I just said that there's a mayor here. Everything here belongs to the mayor. The house, the city walls, everything. The mayor provides us with a place to live, so of course he has to pay. Oh, that's only natural. Zichen heard and immediately took out 2 extreme energy. He was a bit pained, but he also felt lucky. He said, "Fortunately, we're here. Otherwise, it would be troublesome." "Okay, then I'll take it for you." Tommy stood up and said, "Zichen, you rest here first. If you want to go hunting, you can come with us. We'll distribute the extreme energy according to your contribution." Zichen heard and said, "That's great." Tommy smiled. "Of course, I'm very familiar with everyone in the team. Just give them a call and I'll be able to help you." While saying that, he looked at Zichen. Zichen reacted and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you, big brother Tommy." Then, he reluctantly took out a stream of extreme energy and gave it to Tommy with a smile. Tommy took the energy and patted his chest, saying, "Don't worry, leave it to me. I'll try to make sure you can go hunting with the team tomorrow morning." After sending Tommy away, Zichen closed the door. Since he was outside, he had to be a bit more careful. He prepared quite a bit of extreme energy for this trip, so he didn't use much on the way, which was much better than he expected. So right now, he still had a lot of extreme energy left. He then sat cross-legged on his bed and began to recover his energy. As his scripture circulated, his heart beat, replenishing his extreme energy. Zichen wasn't sure how much extreme energy was stored in his heart, and he didn't know when it would be used up. Tommy walked out of Zichen's room with the same smile on his face. "Tommy, you look like you're in a good mood. Did you get something good?" someone asked. Tommy curled his lip, saying, "Good my ass. He's so poor, he only got 1 extreme energy no matter how hard he tried. He looks like a decent person, but he's actually so poor. Are you going hunting tomorrow?" "Of course." "That's great, bring that brat along, he can help us out too." "Sure." That night, Zichen stayed in his room and no longer had the feeling of being on edge. That night, he had a very peaceful night. By the time the sun rose, his extreme power had already fully recovered. Stretching his back, Zichen practiced a set of fist techniques. This was a fist technique from the Saint Spirit realm, but because of the different laws, it didn't have any effect here. Chapter 4983. Zichen opened the door and saw Tommy standing outside with a smile on his face. When he saw Zichen, he scanned him from head to toe. His eyes lit up. "It's done. Let's go." Zichen nodded. After closing the door, Zichen followed Tommy. The two of them walked towards the city gate. Along the way, they saw some people. Almost all of their gazes were on Zichen. Some were curious, but most of their gazes were cold. Or rather, they were pitiful. "Let's go. Everyone wait outside." Zichen saw a group of 6 people at the gate. When they saw Tommy, they immediately waved at him. Zichen followed them. Everyone looked at Zichen and sensed that he was at his peak. A strong man smiled. "Good boy. Not bad. Zichen saw this person yesterday." He nodded at him. Tommy said, "This is Willie. Willie, his name is Zichen." Willie went up and patted Zichen's shoulder. "Do your best." Then, Tommy introduced the other 5 people one by one. One of them, Lu Fu, said, "Let's go. Time is of the essence. We'll try to come back tomorrow. Are we going to spend the night outside?" Zichen's expression changed. The lawbreaker beast usually only comes out at night. "Of course we're going to spend the night outside." "Why? You don't want to? Then let's go back." Tommy had introduced him earlier. His name was Derek. "Of course, we're going," Zichen said immediately. The 8 of them walked out. Zichen carried the wooden stick he brought. This was his protection. "Zichen, you look like a corpse fisherman. Take a look at what we've got." Tommy held a spear. Of course, it was also made of wood. However, it had been polished and looked very sharp. The others were also holding weapons. There were knives and swords, but they were all made of wood. Zichen had once asked Old Blind why they didn't use weapons. The answer was that the weapons from the original world would become very fragile after coming here because of the different rules. For example, a Heaven's Chosen soldier could be easily smashed by Zi Chen with the wooden stick as if it was tofu. This was the influence of the rules. Zi Chen had guessed more than once that what was in the Milky Way was the law of the myriad worlds. As for this place, it was a place where the Milky Way had filtered through. In other words, it was a higher level space. Therefore, the rules here were above the myriad worlds. Zi Chen had once guessed that this might be the immortal spells world, but he quickly rejected that notion. The immortal spells world was an extremely lively place. It would not be so desolate. Other than that, the rules of the immortal techniques world were the same as the 10,000 realms. This could be seen from the many legacies he had obtained. At the same time, Zi Chen also guessed that it was possible that this was the source of the world. The rules came from here, using the Milky Way as the foundation to create the myriad worlds. He had asked the old man about it, but the old man did not seem to care about it. It was as if the old man was the happiest thing in the world. As for the matters of the outside world, the old man had said that he had forgotten many things, as he no longer had any attachments. But Zi Chen could not. He still had friends and family. He had to go back. Even though this path was very bumpy, everyone was holding wooden weapons, and no one was holding bone weapons. Zi Chen had tried it before. Other than extreme energy, which could be stored in the devil's space, nothing else could be stored. For example, this wooden weapon, and the fishing net of the past. It was the same. But Zi Chen's bone stick could be stored away at will. This surprised him. At the same time, the immortal spiritual eye could also be used here. It was a little unbelievable. The group did not speak much. As they moved forward, their gazes swept the surroundings. Zi Chen, go get some branches. After walking for 2 hours, Tommy saw some withered branches and immediately instructed Zi Chen to pick them up. Zi Chen nodded and went to pick up a lot. They were probably going to start a fire at night. These branches were already withered. Compared to other vegetation, they were less resilient. But they were still very tough. After Zi Chen picked up a handful and carried them, it undoubtedly increased the consumption of his energy. Arriving at a wasteland, Wiley stood on a high ground. He looked around and said, "Today, we will hunt here." Everyone nodded in agreement. Zi Chen, leave the things here. Go get some more branches. We have to stay here for a night. We have to make the fire stronger, Tommy said. Zi Chen nodded again, and then went back the way they came. There were some withered branches on the way back. Originally, only Zi Chen had brought withered branches. The others were empty-handed. The 7 of them looked at Zi Chen silently. Lu Fu smiled and said, "Very obedient." Then, the 7 of them sat there and chatted. As they chatted, their bodies lit up. Their lives were being consumed. But compared to Zi Chen, who was busy, the consumption was much less. After 4 trips, Zi Chen sat on the ground. He had consumed a lot of energy. If this continued, he would have to use extreme energy before nightfall. "Why did you stop? It's not enough," Tommy said, 1 pile in the middle and at least 6 piles on the sides. "Only then can we ensure everyone's safety." Zi Chen hesitated and said, "I used too much energy. It's okay if you use more energy now. Anyway, you won't do anything. When the law-breaking beast comes, we will deal with it." Tommy said, "Since you have joined this group, you have to contribute. If you don't want to contribute, then you want to get something. How can that be? Don't you think so?" "Okay." Zi Chen stood up. "Don't be unwilling. If you don't want to join the group, you can just leave," Derek said indifferently. Derek said faintly, "We don't want another person who doesn't know anything to share our harvest with us." Zi Chen didn't say anything. He went back and forth a few times, carrying 7 piles of firewood and placing them in 7 places. The sky gradually darkened. The 7 of them stopped chatting and went to the piles of firewood. There was 1 pile in the middle and 6 piles on the sides. When the sky was completely dark, they started to light the fire. The flames burned brightly, making the surroundings brighter. The 7 of them sat in the middle of the fire. Zi Chen sat alone on the side. It could be seen that the 7 of them became nervous. Soon, the wind blew, and there was light in the dark night. Law-breaking beast. Zi Chen stared ahead. His face couldn't help but change. Because of the light, he could see that there were a lot of law-breaking beasts. Why are there so many? Willie and the others were stunned for a moment before their expressions turned ugly. Our luck is really bad. We can only admit that we are unlucky. Tommy stood up and looked at Zi Chen. He said, Zi Chen, we have to go back. Now. Zi Chen was slightly stunned. It's so dangerous. How can we go back? Take care. A voice suddenly came from behind Zi Chen. When he turned around, Derek stabbed his saber into his chest. Pulling out his saber, Derek walked away. Chapter 4984. Seeing that the situation was not good, they immediately retreated. One had to admit that everyone left very decisively without any hesitation. However, if they wanted to escape successfully, they needed a bait, and that person was Zi Chen. Looking at the other party's skillful movements, he must have done this many times. Zi Chen used a strand of energy to join the team, but they actually used him as cannon fodder. Zi Chen fell to the ground, and his extreme power was quickly dissipating. The dissipating power seemed to have a unique aura to the law-breaking beasts. The eyes of those law-breaking beasts changed obviously, and they gradually became irritable. Everyone left, but they did not chase after them. Instead, they stared at Zi Chen. Under the light of the bonfire, Zi Chen saw that the law-breaking beasts were trying to approach. He immediately took out a strand of energy to refine, but for some reason, his injuries were difficult to recover quickly, and his power was still dissipating. These law-breaking beasts began to approach, and a few of them lowered their heads, preparing to attack. Whoosh! Zi Chen took out his bone staff, and a wave of pressure immediately spread out. Those law-breaking beasts immediately stopped and looked at the bone staff warily. Buzz! Zi Chen began to activate the bone staff with all his strength, and a powerful aura immediately surged out. Those law-breaking beasts began to retreat, and there was fear in their eyes. With his injuries and the bone staff, Zi Chen's energy consumption was increasing rapidly, but he could not care about that now. He had to survive first. Hate those few people. Curse them out loud. He did not have the time at all. He sat up, and then waved the bone staff back and forth. Those law-breaking beasts retreated again, and they were already out of the range of the bonfire. Zi Chen retracted some of the bone staff's energy, stood in the middle of the bonfire, and accelerated the refinement of the energy, trying to recover first. Before the first strand of energy was completely refined, he took out the second strand. Zi Chen had seen with his own eyes that a corpse fisherman's body dissipated because he did not have time to refine the energy. He obviously did not want to go to this step. He wanted to live. He did not expect to encounter such a man-made crisis on his first hunting trip. Zi Chen leaned against the center of the bonfire and slowly turned. The bone staff supported the ground, releasing a faint light. The law-breaking beast's eyes were fixed on him. Zi Chen was still refining the G energy. His injuries had recovered slightly. Once again, the second beam of energy had not been consumed. He took out the third beam, not daring to delay in the slightest. His power was being consumed one after another. The law-breaching beasts were still around, pacing around the bonfire. The vegetation here was extremely hard and resistant to fire. It was precisely because of the existence of these flames that Zi Chen felt slightly more at ease. If the surroundings were pitch black, it would be even more dangerous. This night was extremely torturous for Zi Chen, even more so than the first night. His power was constantly being depleted, but he didn't dare to stop at all. Wang. His eyes flickered as he activated his celestial spiritual eye to clearly see the law-breaching beasts around him. There were a total of 15 of them. This made Zi Chen even more wary of acting rashly. After 2 hours, Zi Chen had consumed 10 strands of energy. But the night was still long. Another 2 hours passed, and another 8 strands of extreme energy were consumed. Zi Chen's injuries were completely healed, but the total consumption of 18 strands of extreme energy was still astounding. Fortunately, he managed to keep his life. If it had been anyone else, they would have died long ago. After his injuries were healed, Zi Chen used all his strength to maintain the bone staff. At the same time, his eyes were fixed on the law-breaching beasts. If possible, Zi Chen didn't mind taking the initiative to attack. The bonfire was still burning. The firewood was extremely resistant to fire, and occasionally crackled. These law-breaching beasts were also unwilling to give up. After all, they had been waiting here for an entire night. Suddenly, Zi Chen moved. Like an arrow released from a bow, he instantly appeared in front of a law-breaching beast, and viciously smashed the bone staff in his hand. He attacked with all his strength. Bam! The law-breaching beast clearly didn't expect Zi Chen's sudden attack. Its body had just leaned back when Zi Chen's bone staff landed on its head. With a huge tremor, the law-breaching beast flew backward. In Zi Chen's left hand, the wooden staff danced and spun in a circle on the spot. Banging sounds rang out continuously, and the law-breaching beasts that rushed over were forcibly sent flying. Zi Chen retreated again and threw the wooden staff on the ground. Another wave of energy appeared in his hand. A piece of his back disappeared, and a piece of flesh on his leg was also missing. However, there was no blood flowing out of his body. Only extreme energy was constantly dissipating. Just as he suddenly attacked, the other law-breaching beasts also attacked. They were no longer afraid of the bone staff. Zi Chen was injured. The law-breaching beast that was hit in the head was rolling on the ground, struggling, and screaming. It seemed to be in great pain. Zi Chen retreated to the bonfire again. The other law-breaching beasts didn't attack anymore. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew over. The law-breaching beast let out a miserable cry, and its body was enveloped by the black gust of wind. Suddenly, countless lights appeared in the gust of wind. It looked like countless rules were circulating. The next moment, the gust of wind disappeared with the law-breaching beast. And in the place where the law-breaching beast disappeared, there was some extreme energy scattered. There were a total of 9 of them. Zi Chen's expression changed, and he felt that it was unbelievable. Was that a smaller version of the extreme vortex just now? Zi Chen's crystal stones had been exchanged from the maelstrom of extremity. However, just now, there seemed to be a smaller version of the extreme vortex in the gust of wind. It disintegrated the law-breaching beast's body, leaving behind extreme energies. The extreme energies were scattered there, and Zi Chen didn't pick them up. And the law-breaching beasts didn't seem to be interested in those energies. They just looked at Zi Chen. This stalemate lasted until the sky brightened. After Zi Chen could see things clearly without the immortal spirit eye, he had great confidence. At this moment, the law-breaching beasts retreated. The 9 extreme energies were scattered on the ground. After the law-breaching beasts left, Zi Chen picked them up. In just one night, Zi Chen had expended 23 strands of extreme energy and finally managed to preserve his life. These 9 energies were a pleasant surprise. The bonfire had been extinguished, and there was still some smoke rising. Zi Chen put away the bone staff, picked up the wooden staff, and walked back the way he came. He didn't meet anyone else along the way. In less than 2 hours, Zi Chen arrived at Law-Breaching City. Looking at the open gate from afar, his eyes were a little colder. Entering the gate, Zi Chen saw Tommy. The other party also saw Zi Chen, and was shocked as if he had seen a ghost. You, he was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. Zi Chen quickly approached, holding the wooden staff in his hand tightly, and hit the other party's head hard. There was a loud bang. Tommy was sent flying. Help! Tommy fell to the ground, and the energy around him began to dissipate. He screamed in horror. Chapter 4985. Zi Chen waved the long rod in his hand, forcing Tommy to retreat. Tommy's energy began to drain away, which was a sign of injury. He screamed and immediately used his energy to refine the energy. Go to hell! Zi Chen's eyes were filled with killing intent. The long rod in his hand hit Tommy's head. With a bang, Tommy rolled on the ground. Zi Chen stepped forward and the long rod in his hand fell again. He was about to smash Tommy's head. Bang! A wooden saber approached and blocked Zi Chen's attack. It was Derek. It was this wooden saber that stabbed him in the sky last night. When enemies met, their eyes turned red. Zi Chen gave up on Tommy and attacked Derek. Their weapons kept colliding. This was a pure competition of strength. Zi Chen was obviously stronger. After 5 consecutive strikes, Derek's weapon fell from his hand. Then, 2 wooden spears came from the left and right, blocking Zi Chen's wooden rod that was about to hit Derek's head. It was Willy and Ruffo. Zi Chen was forced back a few steps. Then, he charged forward again. Facing several people, he was not afraid at all. The rest of the people in the city heard the commotion and ran over. After seeing Zi Chen, the newcomer, everyone's expression changed. When Tommy and the others returned last night, they said that the newcomer Zi Chen did not listen to their advice and attacked on his own. He was ambushed by law-breaking beasts. They tried their best to save him but failed. So, they returned early. But today, when Zi Chen returned, he was looking for trouble with them. Everyone looked ahead. Zi Chen's combat strength was obviously very strong. Everyone was a force, but Zi Chen could suppress several people. His combat strength was tyrannical. Seeing Zi Chen's killing intent, many people's expressions changed. Some of them had already guessed the reason. In fact, Tommy and the others did not have a good reputation. The newcomers under them often disappeared mysteriously. "Get lost!" Zi Chen shouted and smashed the long rod in his hand. Although it was not sharp, it was full of strength. Bang! Lu Fu and Willy immediately retreated. They looked at Zi Chen and shouted, "Stop, no fighting is allowed here. In your eyes, are there still rules?" Derek had already gotten up from the ground and was angrily rebuking Zi Chen. "All of you must die." Zi Chen stared at them, his eyes full of murderous intent. At this moment, no rules could restrain him. Since it was the law of the jungle, there was no need to hold back. He forced a few people back again, then rolled on the ground and picked up Derek's wooden blade. Ignoring the 2 spears beside him, Zi Chen endured 2 attacks and arrived in front of Derek. The other party's face was filled with fear as he quickly retreated. Puff! The wooden saber in Zi Chen's hand pierced into his opponent's chest. "You want to kill me? Just as well, I want to experience this feeling too." Zi Chen looked at Derek, his eyes cold. He pulled out the wooden blade once more and stabbed it into Derek's body. "How do you feel?" Zi Chen was smiling, but his smile was like that of a demon. Puff! Puff! Zi Chen stabbed again and again, piercing into Derek's body. Derek was filled with fear. Energy kept circulating in his left and right hands, and his desire to live was very strong. The others were also scared silly and didn't dare to step forward. "Do you even deserve to live?" Zi Chen smiled mockingly and acted as if he was going to chop off Derek's arms to prevent him from absorbing energy. At this moment, a hand grabbed Zi Chen's arm. Scram! Zi Chen roared in anger, wanting to shake the other party off but discovered that he didn't succeed. He was slightly surprised and circulated his energy again, but there was still no reaction. The hand that grabbed his arm was extremely strong and didn't budge at all. Zi Chen turned his head and saw a middle-aged man standing there. "That's enough," the middle-aged man spoke. "Who are you?" Zi Chen stared at the other party, holding the wooden blade in his hand tightly. "Zi Chen, how dare you not bow when you see the city lord?" Tommy immediately shouted at Zi Chen. "City lord?" Zi Chen was stunned and a little surprised. However, he wasn't afraid. He stared at the other party and asked, "Why are you stopping me?" "Fighting is not allowed here," the city lord of Shatter Law City said. "They ambushed me last night and threw me in the wilderness to attract the law-breaking beast. They took the opportunity to escape," Zi Chen said coldly, "so, they all deserve to die." His words caused an uproar. Many people had guessed it. "I know, but this is a city. Fighting is not allowed here," the city lord said. "This is the rule here." "All right, I will abide by the rules," Zi Chen said and pulled Derek out of the city. The city lord was very strong, and he didn't want to fight him. "City lord, save me, save me," Derek shouted in fear. If he was dragged out by Zi Chen, he would really die. "Stop." The city lord reached out his hand again, wanting to stop Zi Chen. Zi Chen turned around and slashed down with the wooden blade in his hand. The city lord reached out his palm. In his palm, There were 2 rays of power lingering. The long blade hovered in his palm, motionless. 2 rays of power. Zi Chen's face changed. He immediately let go of Derek and slashed forward with all his strength. The City Lord's palm moved slightly. Suddenly, a strange power spread out. With a loud bang, Zi Chen was sent flying, dragging the long saber in his hand along with him. The 2 of them weren't on the same level at all. What are you? Zi Chen looked at the other party. The other party's second attack had caused 2 rays of power to resonate. In the outside world, it was relatively simple because it was just an ordinary battle skill. But here, because of the different attributes, Zi Chen couldn't use any other battle skills except for his immortal spiritual eye. But just now, the City Lord had used it. This is the law-breaking technique. Only 2 rays of power can master it. Seeing Zi Chen's confusion, the City Lord took the initiative to explain. Zi Chen stood up and walked to the side to pick up the wooden blade. You want to fight again? The City Lord looked at Zi Chen. Zi Chen didn't answer and asked, how does the City Lord plan to deal with them? This is just your own words. And there's no evidence. It's hard to believe, the City Lord said lightly. Yes, who would believe you? Derek immediately said. Zi Chen nodded. He understood the true meaning of the City Lord's words. Then I'll wait for them outside. With that, Zi Chen turned and walked out of the door. Once outside the city, there were no rules to speak of. Everything could be done as usual. Zi Chen had a lot of extreme energy on him. He was confident that he could wait for them to come out. Derek and the others saw this and their expressions changed. If this continued, wouldn't they still die? They looked at the City Lord, who turned and left. Obviously, he tacitly agreed with Zi Chen's actions. That wooden blade is mine, Derek shouted. Unfortunately, Zi Chen didn't care at all. He walked to the door, turned to face them, and sat down cross-legged. Seeing the City Lord's 2 rays of power and his battle skills, Zi Chen saw some confidence. But before that, revenge must be taken. Chapter 4986. Zi Chen took out a strand of extreme energy and refined it. Previously, he was injured by the 2 wooden spears, and now he was starting to recover. Tommy and the others stood in the city, all of them had worried expressions. Zi Chen guarding there was equivalent to cutting off their path. If they went out, they would be killed. Although there was more than one gate, once they left the city, it would be the beginning of the danger. They looked at each other, but there was nothing they could do. Who would have thought that Zi Chen would be able to survive that kind of situation? How did he survive against so many law-breaker beasts with a broken stick in his hand? They couldn't understand. If he stays outside, he will only die. Derek said coldly, we will exhaust him to death like this. The others weren't optimistic. Zi Chen could survive that kind of difficult situation last night. Now that he was outside the city, his chances of survival would be much higher. Because the danger here was much lower. There was no show to watch, so the crowd dispersed. Zi Chen was still guarding outside. During this period of time, there were groups that left. When they passed by Zi Chen, they all looked at him curiously. Placing the long stick beside him, Zi Chen held the wooden blade tightly. After refining a strand of extreme energy, his injuries had already healed. Extreme energy had a wide range of uses. It could be used to heal life. It could also be used to heal injuries. It could be considered omnipotent. Tommy and the others had already returned. If they continued to stay outside, the consumption would increase. Obviously, the losses outweighed the gains. Time passed. The sky gradually darkened. Zi Chen, who had been standing there all this time, moved. He didn't return to the city, but went to the side to pick up some firewood and placed it at the city gate. The sky darkened. People came back one after another. After seeing Zi Chen standing outside the city, some of them had a strange expression. They all came back from outside. They didn't know what happened during the day. Zi Chen held the wooden blade, still standing there. Soon, the sky darkened. An old man came to the gate. He was about to close it. Little brother, come in quickly. The old man saw Zi Chen standing outside and immediately shouted. Zi Chen shook his head. Little brother, it's dangerous outside. Come back quickly. The old man added, don't be angry. Come back tomorrow morning. If you stay outside like this, You'll only consume more energy. Zi Chen cupped his fists at the other party and said, "Thank you, senior. I'll stay here and kill whoever comes out. If they don't come out, they can just die inside." Zi Chen had the confidence to exhaust them to death. Looking at the determined Zi Chen and the firewood next to him, the old man shook his head and sighed. "Then I'm going to close the shop. Be careful, little brother." Zi Chen nodded and turned around, his back facing the closed wooden door. As the flames rose, Zi Chen lit up 3 bonfires, 2 in front of him and 1 behind him. He sat not far from the wooden door. Even if there were spell-breaking beasts at night, they would not appear from this direction. As for Tommy and the others, if they dared to come out, he would make sure that they would never be able to return. The sky was completely dark, and the surroundings became extremely quiet. However, for some people in Spell-Breaking City, it was clearly a sleepless night. In fact, the area here was not big. Instead of calling it a city, it was more like a small village. At this moment, many people saw the flames burning outside the fence. Many people were shocked. Daring to waste energy like this and waiting like this made Zi Chen even more determined to kill them. Tang Missy and the others were also paying attention to this scene. All of them were extremely shocked. At the same time, they were secretly regretting that they had provoked such a madman. Now, Zi Chen did not even enter the city at night. It was obvious that he would not rest until they were dead. Derek, who had once stabbed Zi Chen, closed the window. His eyes were extremely cold. "Humph, it's best if a spell-breaking beast comes and tears you apart tonight." Many people had the same idea. If one stayed outside alone, it was very likely that he would attract a spell-breaking beast. If Zi Chen was really killed by the spell-breaking beast that night, it would be the best thing that could happen to everyone. Still outside, the old man closed the door and went back. He lived in the mayor's mansion, which was a relatively large residence. The mayor stood at the door and looked at the old man. "That little bro is quite stubborn. He won't come in no matter what," said the old man. "This is not stubbornness, but confidence." The mayor said, "If he dares to stay outside alone, it means that he is not worried about wasting energy or spell-breaking beasts. Tommy and the others have really messed with someone they should not have messed with this time." The old man nodded. He was already used to this kind of thing. However, he did not expect Zi Chen to survive and come back. However, when he thought of the scene during the day when Zi Chen suppressed several people, the old man seemed to understand. Night fell. Some people fell asleep, while others were still paying attention to the outside. The bonfire was still burning, crackling from time to time. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and the flames began to sway. Zi Chen's hair was slightly lifted. Zi Chen gripped the knife in his hand and opened his eyes. Within the range of the fire, everything was normal. There was no danger. He turned his head slightly and looked to both sides. There was nothing unusual. He closed his eyes again and allowed his heart to calm down completely. On his left hand, a beam of extreme energy was ready to be used at any time. After about an hour, Zi Chen opened his eyes again. This time, he saw a pair of eyes at the edge of the bonfire. Zi Chen used his immortal spiritual eye. His back was to the wooden door, so no one could see him. In his vision, there was a single spell-breaking beast. There was only one. Zi Chen's eyes lit up. He put away the extreme energy, picked up a piece of firewood in front of him, and then walked forward with the wooden knife in his hand. As he walked forward, the spell-breaking beast began to slowly retreat. Soon, the man and the beast walked into the darkness. However, Zi Chen had a torch in his hand, so he could still see a small area clearly. In the city, some people who were awake noticed this and immediately walked out of their rooms to look outside through the wooden door. They saw Zi Chen throw away the torch and slash forward with the wooden knife in his hand. In the dark night, there were occasional flashes of cold light. The man and the beast fought together. During this time, there were fluctuations of energy. This battle was mixed with Zi Chen's angry roars and the spell-breaking beast's roars. After about 10 breaths, everything returned to normal. Zi Chen's body was covered in wounds. The spell-breaking beast in front of him fell to the ground. Light appeared, forming a small extreme vortex and swallowing the spell-breaking beast's body. After a while, the extreme vortex disappeared, leaving behind 9 beams of extreme energy. Zichen put away these energies, took one in his hand, and walked over while refining it. Walking back to the bonfire, Zichen began to recover from his injuries. In the dark night, cries of surprise came from spell-breaking city. Chapter 4987. I have something to do, so I have no updates today. From tomorrow onwards, I will strive to keep updating this month. Thunder Warrior has no updates today. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 4988. Cries of surprise rang out one after another. Many people walked out of their rooms and saw Zichen walk back to sit by the bonfire through the gap. He sat cross-legged and refined the extreme energy. A single person had killed a law-breaking beast. Everyone was moved. Thomasy and the others had heavy hearts. They felt extremely pressured. After returning to their rooms, they couldn't sleep for a long time. Zichen had killed a law-breaking beast and obtained 9 strands of energy. Not to mention that he could hold on for a while, this combat strength was already not something they could fight against. With Zichen guarding outside, they didn't dare to go out at all. In the end, they would die. Before the sky brightened, Tommy walked out of the room and went to find the others. These people didn't sleep. After Zichen's display of strength, no one could sleep. What should we do next? The few of them sat together, looking very worried. A cold light flashed in Derek's eyes. Damn it. Since we can't exhaust him to death, let's gather some people tomorrow and kill him together. Willie smiled bitterly. Who's willing to join? We'll give them extreme energy. I don't believe that no one will be willing. Derek had stabbed Zichen before. During the day, Zichen had snatched his wooden blade. His heart had always been filled with resentment, but of course, more than that, he was afraid. If it were any other time, maybe someone would. But this time, after seeing Zichen's strength, who would dare to make a move? Tommy also smiled bitterly. Guys, think about it. How many law-breaking beasts were there that night? Everyone's hearts tightened when they recalled the scene that day. Visually, there were more than a dozen law-breaking beasts. There were so many law-breaking beasts, but Zichen survived. How many people do you think we need to find to kill him? No one knew how Zichen had managed to survive. Then what should we do? Derek said, do we just stay here until we run out of energy and are exhausted to death? At first, they thought that they could exhaust Zichen to death. But after what happened earlier, it was obvious that this was impossible. Zichen had the ability to kill law-breaker beasts on his own. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for him to be exhausted to death. Let's reconcile. Tommy sighed helplessly. Reconcile? How is that possible? Derek said, didn't you see how Zichen looked? He couldn't wait to cut us into pieces. The others also had strange expressions on their faces. Obviously, they didn't think this would work. Tommy looked at Derek. Derek's expression changed as he angrily said, Tommy, you're not going to push me out, are you? You want to sacrifice me so that you can live. The expressions of the others changed again, and the look in their eyes changed. After all, the one who had stabbed Zichen to death was Derek, not them. Speaking of which, the two sides did not seem to be in an irreconcilable situation. Just as everyone's expressions changed, Tommy said, what are you thinking? Of course, it is impossible for us to reconcile, but we can go to the City Lord and ask him for help. No matter what, the City Lord is the strongest person here. No matter how arrogant Zichen is, he still has to give the City Lord some face. When the others heard this, they all nodded. As for Derek, he was also relieved. As long as he was not sacrificed, it was fine. However, at that moment, he noticed the change in everyone's eyes. He couldn't help but feel a little angry, but he didn't show it. The sky finally brightened. The old man came to the gate and opened it again. Zichen stood up. The flames around him had been extinguished. He stretched his muscles and turned to look at the old man. The old man smiled at Zichen. Little brother, you're really amazing. Obviously, The old man also knew that Zi Chen had killed a lawbreaker beast alone. Senior, you flatter me. I was just lucky. After the old man left, the others appeared. They all stood in the city and looked at Zi Chen curiously. For a single person to be able to kill a lawbreaker beast, this kind of battle prowess was rare. A muscular man walked towards the door. You're Zi Chen, right? I'd like to invite you to join our team. Zi Chen glanced at the strong man and said indifferently, not interested. I know what you're worried about. Don't worry, we're not Tommy and the others. We won't betray our teammates. The strong man said again, my name is Stuart. We only have 4 people in our team. You can consider it. Of course, Zi Chen wouldn't join, but he still nodded kindly and didn't say anything else. Stuart didn't get the answer he wanted. He rubbed his nose and felt a little embarrassed. However, it was understandable. Zi Chen had just been tricked. How could he join a new team? Zi Chen didn't see Tommy and the others. When they walked past Zi Chen, they were very curious about him. Zi Chen stood at the gate and waited. There were 2 gates in this small lawbreaker city. Perhaps Tommy and the others left through the other one. Zi Chen said, everyone, if they leave, please tell them that they'll be rewarded with 2 strands of extreme energy. 2 strands of extreme energy was obviously a great reward. Many people's eyes lit up and they silently walked towards the other exit. As for Zi Chen's wealth, no one was surprised. After all, he could kill a lawbreaker beast alone. It was normal for him to have extra extreme energy. At this moment, Tommy and the others went to the City Lord mansion and asked the City Lord to help solve this matter. The City Lord looked at them. They didn't dare to hide anything and told him what had happened. In fact, this kind of thing was normal. The City Lord also knew about it. I'll go talk to Zi Chen. As for whether it'll work, I can't guarantee. The City Lord went to look for Zi Chen amidst the continuous gratitude of the crowd. The City Lord walked to the door and looked at Zi Chen with a smile. Guess what I'm here for? Zi Chen glanced at the City Lord and shook his head. In fact, he had already guessed it. Living in this place is very difficult. So everyone's temperament is different. This kind of thing where others die but you don't die often happens. The City Lord said, I'm very surprised that you survived. But if the others didn't die, I'll be very happy. The Lawbreaker City was built here to give everyone a place to live. But the city might not be able to stop the Lawbreaker beasts. Maybe at some point, the Lawbreaker beasts will gather and attack this place. Zi Chen looked at the City Lord. Has this happened before? The City Lord shook his head. I don't know. Everyone says that I built this place. Actually, it wasn't. When I came here, this place was already here. But when I came in, there was no one here. There were only traces left by the Lawbreaker beasts. Zi Chen's face changed. Obviously, everyone had been killed by the Lawbreaker beasts. That was why there was no one here. If possible, I still hope that they can survive. After all, one more person means one more chance of survival. The City Lord looked at Zi Chen. I hope you can let them go this time.